game on. Let's go live. Yes. Okay, here we are live. Happy Juneteenth, everyone. Oh my goodness! What are we doing? Oh, I thought they started already. Did they start already? They're just going over the other goals. I was like, what the heck? Did we get a goal
No,
already?
yeah, they're definitely not started yet. They're showing
I was like, wait, what? I looked up and I was like, what's happening?
Oh my god.
But
That is
oh my goodness, game 2. What?
Telling you, them abs.
I know. So we should introduce ourselves. My name is Erica, founder and creator of the Founding Four podcast, along with the amazing Mike Murphy. But I've got a new co-host.
And I am Angelica Rodriguez. I am with the Ice Garden. You guys have probably seen me yelling about the Beauts. And now I am so happy to be joining Erica on this new adventure. I have guested a couple of times, but now it's more of a serious thing. So I am so excited, and thank you so much for enjoying me so much that you invited me on. I mean, this is great.
You
Yes.
already know. I was like dirty rushing you, like sorority style.
No, I feel like you were scouting me for a minute there. You're like, yo, how you really feel about this though? Like,
but like, you coming through or not?
like, you want to do this full time? Like, and of course I was.
Exactly. I mean, so the first episode that you were on was the For the Culture episode where we did all of the things and like none of the things. It was amazing.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it was definitely an event. We still reference that episode to this day.
In the deep. Hey.
Oh my God. That episode is a mess, but it is probably one of the most fun episodes I've ever recorded. I think it was kind of like early in my podcasting venture too. So yeah, I hadn't done a whole lot. I'd done a little bit of like NHL podcasting, but not like, I think it was kind of one of the first times I ever actually talked about women talking on a podcast. So it was fun.
Right, let's go. Making firsts here, and now you are only the second ever co-host. So we're gonna do it. Mike Murphy and I started on this journey way back in the day, when the Founding Four truly was just 4 teams and under the National Women's Hockey League. And now we have at least 6, maybe more, who knows? And we're now Premier Hockey Federation. So we should say that this is not sponsored by anyone but Black Rosie Media. Okay, so this is not. We don't work for the Premier Hockey Federation. We don't work for the Professional Women's Hockey Players Association, and anywhere else. IHF, USA Hockey, definitely not. We're just here. We're talking. We are going to focus primarily on the Premier Hockey Federation because we both work in that space in a variety of roles. But we're going to talk all about women's hockey. So we had World Championships that was rescheduled. It was a matchup in the United States and Canada, so we're going to talk about that. We've got ball hockey, where a lot of NWHL slash PHF, I know, where NWHL slash PHF alum are going to be playing. We can talk about that. We have PHF news and signings, including some news that we're hoping will come that will maybe lead to more signings. And then, of course, we called it a watch party because we are watching. I mean, Emily Kaplan's got this beautiful pink sequins jacket on, like jacket game, so strong. Love a good jacket, right?
Yes. That is definitely, yeah. I do enjoy some style. I tried to match that in the Buffalo Blues Classic back in February, but not quite that flashy. Yeah, but
I mean, we can we can only dream. When we do get this podcast sponsored and all of y'all start becoming Patreons, paying members of the Patreon posse, maybe we'll get to that level. Like I'm gonna put that out in the universe. Let's manifest that.
speak that into existence. Yes,
Sprinkle a little sprinkle a little bit of
Salt
that.
Bay.
I love it. Yes. All about the Salt Bay. Hey, bay, bay. All right. Well, Angelica, I am going to check on my beef patty that I put in the oven. And I love for you, though, to get us started about the matchup. So this is game three, final 2022. And I don't think you're completely a neutral party here. So I'm gonna let
I'm 100% not.
So I'm gonna let you go off, sis, though, and talk
Uh,
about what we've seen through two games and who you're rooting for and why. And I will be right back.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's pretty much the dynasty in the making. I hate saying that, but it is between the Tampa Bay Lightning and then the new kids in the block and the Colorado Avalanche, who haven't been there in quite some time. The last cup they won was back in 2001. So we're going on a good 20 years without them being here. And it is definitely she got her patio.
Yes, I
It's
do.
definitely been a lot different than I think even the Lightning were anticipating. Um, it's been all ads so far. I mean, game one was definitely more evenly matched. We had Avs came out to an early lead. Lightning battled back, showed why they were back-to-back Stanley Cup champs. And then overtime happened, and it kind of went from there. And then game two, all abs. Just complete
Yeah.
dominance top to bottom. Probably the most perfect game they've played all season. And definitely in this postseason. It was just complete um, dominance, really. It's just like there's no other way to say it. There was goal scoring, there was penalty killing, there was, Darcy Kemper didn't have a whole lot to do. But above all, I think they really kind of rattled the Lightning and made them really rethink their standing as, about to be three-time champs because they're not looking at it right now. And
Yeah.
I think that they're playing high. So I think that this is definitely going to be that do or die game for them. Um, I think a lot of people say, I mean, obviously, 3-0, it's kind of that do or die, literally in a literal sense. But I really think that game three is kind of it. Like, this is really what's going to show if the Lightning have what it takes to pull themselves back into this series or if it's going to be the Abs. And we'll see. I myself, again, am a very new Avs fan. You can call me a bandwagoner if you want. I really don't care. I love the Avs. I think that they're such a fun team to watch. They're just full of depth, full of talent. They have some amazing youngsters in Kale McCarr et al. They have some really great veteran presence in Nate McKinnon, Gabe Landeskog. I think probably their one point that could use some focus is their goaltending, but thankfully Darcy Kemper's, been solid. Pavel Francouz stepped up in a great way, while Kemper was injured. And I'm sorry, my money's on the Abs. I'm sorry. They're just Western Conference hockey in general has been so much more fun to watch for me. And this is coming from somebody who has grown up watching Eastern Conference, like born and raised in Brooklyn, live in Buffalo. Like I've definitely, I've lived watching Eastern Conference and turning into a Western Conference fan this season has definitely opened my eyes to the completely dynamic way of playing that they have over there, and it's a lot of fun. So go Avs all the way for sure.
Okay. All right. So there you got it. Spilling the tea. I think, and thank you. You did a great job already coming through with the co-host. You know, anyone who's ever seen me, especially during a watch party, you know I will be eating. I have snacks. Have my drinks. I have this is a hibiscus margarita, but also you have
Ooh,
to keep it healthy and hydrated. So I also have some um some tea, some cool
yeah.
tea, you
I've
know.
got some whiskey ginger in here, and I have my
Ooh,
smoke in here. So,
see? Hermana, right here with it. We're not new, we are true.
uh-huh. You're right now hot for him. But also, I have work tomorrow, so I can't get that
There you go.
lit.
There you go. Fair enough. Right.
Yeah.
Today was a holiday. We talked about it a little bit. Or, well, happy Juneteenth, everyone. I'm wearing my New York Liberty Juneteenth or t-shirt. They gave these out at the game the other day. And so let's talk a little bit about Juneteenth because we got some time before this game gets going. But sorry, I was looking at the replay.
Yeah.
They have the teams are coming out on the ice now. But
Yeah.
so Juneteenth is only this is only the second year that it is a federal holiday, which is why a lot of people probably had off. Hope you enjoyed your day off, and I hope that you did some research on Juneteenth. So I'll give a really brief overview, and then we can go back and forth. But Juneteenth essentially is short for June 19th, and it is a celebration that is native to Texas, but specifically Galveston, Texas. And that is because it took 2 months from the end of the Civil War before anyone thought to knock on Galveston's door and tell the enslaved people that the Civil War was over. Um, and see, like, if we just stop the story right there, I feel like we could go on a whole tangent. Like, I was being nice, and again, this is like my drunk history version of June 16th or June 19th, excuse me, aka Juneteenth. So please do look up the history, and I'll make sure to put some resources in. But like, they just forgot. Y'all forgot.
Convenient.
Very, very.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so June 19th is, when some white folks from somewhere else were like, "Oh, y'all still doing this?" And then they were like, "No, no, 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 we did that. We like it's dead it." And then boom. So Jubilee, a liberation celebration, these are other things that you might hear associated with Juneteenth. But wanted to make sure that we had the history, so I've got my Juneteenth shirt from the New York Liberty. Also wearing my Greenwood hat, which is representing Tulsa, Oklahoma. So yeah, I wanted to just stop and do and show some love for Juneteenth. Uh, and Angelica, I know we have talked so much and we use hashtag for the culture, but today is an opportunity to be for the culture. But
Yeah.
with that said, I mean, first your thoughts on Juneteenth, and then also your thoughts on Juneteenth being a proper federal holiday.
Well, I think it's only so long in the making, for it to be deemed a federal holiday. I mean, we get off for literally every dead white president that's out there. So, I mean, it's only not even so much in fairness, but it's only appropriate to honor that part of our history. I think that a lot of people don't really understand what it's about, don't really understand the importance. But I think that just as much as we want to acknowledge the good parts of our history and American history in general, I think that we need to acknowledge the not so good parts.
Yeah.
And we need to pay homage and pay respect to those who have been historically marginalized. And I think that this is just one more way to do it. Do we still have a long way to go? Absolutely.
Mm.
But it is one step in many that I think that we're in a good spot for in taking toward I don't it's really as a non-black person of color, obviously my opinions on it are not as needed, not as necessary. I think that I mean, obviously, I'm always 100% going to, stand with, my Black community and those people I know in it, and even people I don't know. I'm always going to say Black Lives Matter. I'm always going to say, this history is important. But I think that above all, this is a chance for us to really listen to Black voices and listen to the lived experience of those around us who don't look like us, and really examine our role in, the systemic oppression that still happens today.
Yes. I appreciate that on multiple levels, including, there's something that you mentioned, about, or paraphrasing, that this is a time for you to be supportive, but not necessarily be the primary voice, if you will. And I want to put a pin in that because I know you and I talked in passing about something that happened maybe a week or two ago with the Steve Dangle podcast network, and talking about pride. And of course, it is, although we're celebrating Juneteenth today as the federal holiday, it's the day off. This is also Pride Month. And so I think there are so many ways we could have that conversation, as well as we officially have puck drop here. Game 3, the Avalanche on the road. I traveled today, and there was a guy, I don't know where he was coming from, but he definitely had his Avs sweater on, just
Love
walking around
it.
in the airport.
Love
So
it. And the Avs are a good road team. They are a very, very strong road team. So this is going to be interesting.
yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I did see them on the road when they played the Devils. That was when I got to call that NHL game with Kelly Schultz. That was so much fun. But the Devils came back. They came storming back in that game. So I do know that the Avs, in the regular season at times, um, although we know they have such a potent offense, they can take really silly penalties. And
Yeah.
statistically speaking, in the regular season in particular, I remember looking at the stats. It's like, oh, if you can get them in the box,
Yeah.
that would be an opportunity.
Although I mean, again, they really have stepped it up, and I mean, you can argue about the consistency of the officiating in this postseason to your heart's content. You can
Mm-hmm.
argue that there maybe have been some penalties that have been overlooked, but that's been on both sides.
Yeah.
So, that being said, they have remained relatively disciplined. And it's been to their benefit. And the penalties they have taken, again, they've been able to kill off. And really, I mean, they had a shorthanded goal the other night. Kale McCarr coming down the side there and joining in the rush. God, that kid's fast. But yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. But this is
But
definitely a chance for the Lightning to kind of make a statement on their own ice.
yeah, and we'll see what that's going to look like for this team. Obviously, as you mentioned, they're going for the three-peat. This is something that we haven't seen in the National Hockey League in a number of years. Um, and so, but if you, I just want to take a look. I like to look at some of the head-to-head stats. As we're talking about these teams and what we're gonna see, and I think um, when we look at the stats from the other day, we were talking about the power play. Like the Lightning were not able to convert. I think they had 2 power play opportunities, couldn't convert. The Colorado Avalanche went 2 for 4 on the power play, and then you mentioned also being able to get it done shorthand. I mean, like when you score 7 goals, I think you're pretty much doing what you want to do at that point in time.
And I mean, a good friend of mine says special teams are important. So
Yeah, they're kind of a big deal, despite what head coaches of particular women's hockey teams playing in world championships or the Olympics might have to say. But you know,
no comment.
it's fine. It's fine, Joel. It's fine. Um, oh, we got Maddie Tate in the comments.
Maddie!
So asked if this is going to be a regular thing. Yeah, I think, well, I officially announced you as the co-host of the Founding Four podcast. So we're kicking things off just for the drama of it all with the man's NHL and
The man.
boys, right, the men's and the boys hockey. I guess we'll tolerate it until women's hockey
It's I.
in gear. It's I. Yeah, but so you're gonna be the co-host, and
Yes.
we talked a little bit about what we want to do with the Found Four Pod, but why don't we let folks know? Like, you've obviously known the Founding Four. Mike and I did that show, and then it's been on a little bit of a hiatus as I try to get things popping and grooving. But what are you most excited about when it comes to having a women's hockey podcast and co-hosting a women's hockey podcast?
Well, I think that it's a lot more fun for me to kind of spout my thoughts as I say them, as I think them.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm a writer. I always have been. I've been since I was writing about hockey since I was 16. So I mean, this is old hat for me. It's been almost 20 years. But really being able to interact with other fans, really being able to talk hockey, not just with not just with other media, not just with fans, but also with players. I think that especially coming into this season, I think now more than ever, my focus is going to be on giving the players a platform and, making sure that their voices are heard. And if they're able to use their platform for good, so much the better. I think that a lot of the mainstream information surrounding women's hockey, I think, kind of airs a little bit toward the negative, or at least the more neutral. And I think that not a lot of people pay attention unless something's wrong. So I want to really highlight some of the more unknown stories, some of the more uplifting stories. And I really want to make this kind of a place where, we can talk about all the things that need to be talked about in women's hockey. And we can also include the players in that as they would like, as they would see fit, but also, not shy away from the facts as they see fit.
I love that. And I'm obviously down with that, having the players involved and being a platform, because it's one thing, and you alluded to this in one way, but I want to add to when you talk about coverage and maybe what the narrative or the tone of it is. I think also, and this goes into why I started Black Rosie Media, but also, if we're being honest, the stories that will populate at the top of Google are going to happen around the Olympics. And the ones maybe that are archived in time, or again will populate first, are those, oh, what a save. Wow. Ooh, Tampa Bay got lucky there. I don't know what time do you have on the clock? I have 16:12.
I have 16:26.
Oh,
so I'm a little behind.
You're a little behind. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, was it Vasi? Because they're in his zone right now.
Yep, you already know.
Time for him to show up. Jeez.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm at the replay now, and they're giving the close up, like the camera from behind him. There were so many ways that could have gone bad. I'm gonna wait till you see the
Oh,
right.
Woof.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's when
that was.
Have to have amazing hand-eye coordination, because ain't no way that thing bounced in so many different ways.
Oh, I know of a PHF goaltender who did that. And has, but no. Oh wow, what a kick save! That was great. Yep. Wow. Yeah, right? Those are some reflexes there, and that's a big goalie. Like, that is not a small man, and for him to have that kind of reflex like that is impressive.
You'll have to see it.
Absolutely. But yeah, going back to your point, And I think that it's kind of continuing in the tradition that you set with Mike too, because Mike is very much a for the players type of guy. You're very much for the players. Don't give me that look.
I'm not saying anything. I'm
You
only
don't
saying
have to. Somebody scored. I already know.
I love it, Jeff. Hey, what's up, Jeff? Exactly. That was a tippiest of toes save.
It was. That was a toe. Probably didn't feel good, but
Wait till you catch up.
oh god. We got a shout out from Mike Murphy. Very, very happy about the announcement. In his words, let's go. Yeah! Woo!
There you go.
Was that my Valpal? Yes, it was. Yeah, looking at the 13. Val Nichushkin. Yes. I was toning down today a little bit. During games 1 and 2, I was pretty much screaming, and my downstairs neighbor probably hated me. Then again, my downstairs neighbor was also screaming during the playoffs of the Bills, so
well,
this is even better.
All right. Colorado on the board.
Yeah. Are they already taking it out, or are they challenging?
Hold on. Oh.
He challenging? Is he challenging you for an offside? I don't know.
You called it. I'm watching it.
Because in all times, I'm telling you, the Avalanche have gone offside more times this entire postseason than any other team. That's not an exact statistic, so don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. They're just so goddamn fast that their brains move faster than the puck. Ooh.
You saw the replay?
Woo! Oh no. Oh no.
That's right, Maddie. Come watch the game with us. We're having a good time. I'm a little bit of it.
That's not a great angle at all. That like ice level angle where he passed it to Nate. That's a better angle.
Come watch the game. I'm a little bit ahead, but we're both right now waiting on the results of the Tampa Bay Challenge.
I'm gonna get my fan.
I think it's a valid challenge.
Okay.
It's so close.
It is. It's like by a hair. But that was the same thing with the Makar goal, wasn't it? When I think it was Newhook who tagged up. It was like a delayed offside, so they were able to just clear it.
Ooh.
Please be a goal. Please be a goal. I mean, if it's not, I understand, but I feel like it's not conclusive enough.
Oh no. I'm inclined to think it might be a good challenge. Just because you can see the white. I see the white. And that's saying a lot in hockey. Oh! Sorry, it was right there. I had to take it.
Oh my god.
It was right there. Come on. For the culture. It's still not. Wait. They don't have anything for me yet, so it's going to be a while. What was that? Oh, that was the Florida Tampa series where had the longest ever review.
Coaches challenge.
Yeah.
Telling you.
Oh,
Oh. Yeah, you can see like a half inch.
it's not a lot, but
Yeah,
all right. I have the result. I won't say anything.
I'm gonna watch it. It's probably gonna get called back. It's fine.
It's fine.
I have it. There's still 55 minutes to this game.
All right, I'm back in action. You'll find out soon. It's coming, but
Well, yeah,
yep,
there we go.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, you mentioned it, Founding Four Pod. Mike and I we always wanted to make sure that we were telling stories in a unique way, that we were having the player's voice in there, and I think, oh, oh.
I bet you. I already know what the Lightning just scored. It's fine. You can tell me. It's fine.
I think they're looking at it.
Again?
It looked to me like it went in, but it bounced right out. So now they stopped play again.
Ayala. This is such a Tampa game. This
Right.
is such a goddamn Tampa game.
Well, the last time I did one of these was with Black Row Hockey Club and Black Rosie Media, and it was that was such a wild game. It was game 4. Florida ended up getting swept, but it was just like so many and oh, it was like
Um,
it was
that's
crazy.
gonna be this game. That is gonna be this game.
It already is this game. It already is. We just
Ow.
heard it.
Hang on, BRB. But legit, like unreal. I had to take this flannel off. It was cold. It could not cold, but cooler today.
Yeah, it
And
was.
then it warmed up again. And I live in a second-floor apartment, so it's
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Let's go.
This is already a shit show. Oh gosh,
I'm
this
at a.
game.
I thought that looked to me like it went in.
Don't play devil's advocate.
I'm just saying. Jesse's brother.
Jesse's brother. What did Jesse's brother do?
You'll see.
Oh, he took a penalty.
Yeah.
Bad. Jesse's brother.
Jesse's brother. Yeah, but so Mike did that with his stats analysis. You know me just like you, which is really gonna make for interesting podcasts. But I like to, I like to go along, have conversations that are deep and silly and different than what we usually hear. And if I can do that all in one show, I'm gonna do it. And yeah, you're welcome.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, but I think that's why when you were on the Founding Four, that was such a fun podcast because we were like cutting it up, just chopping it up, being silly, but also talking about some real things. And that's what we're going to do on the Founding Four. That's really what the Founding Four pod has always done. And I'm excited because, I mean, it goes without saying, but we'll say it again just because he'll definitely blush. It goes without saying that we love and adore Mike Murphy. I feel like I should probably tell the story more of how Mike Murphy is the reason that I have a broadcast career. So we'll talk about that. But, like I said, goes without saying, we both love and adore Mike Murphy. And I'm really excited to bring you on because now this really fits into where I'm at personally with the media industry and wanting to change what media looks like, what it sounds like, and how we react and respond to sports news, particularly how we profile women of color in sports. So I'm excited. We're going to do dope things.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're going to be on an off season schedule. So, we'll get into the groove as we get Angelica ready to go. But this is a good opportunity, though, for us to get in some stuff that we want to talk about because men's hockey games, well, all hockey games, I guess, you got 2 intermissions. We got time. We got nothing but time, especially if they're going to be challenging things left and right.
Girl.
Girl. Okay. So why don't we start with, let's talk about the Premier Hockey Federation. The founding four comes from the founding four teams of what is now the Premier Hockey Federation. Of course, at the time it was the New York Riveters, the Buffalo Beauts, so there were 2 New York teams in the first season, the Connecticut Whale, and the Boston Pride, who ultimately won the inaugural Isabel Cup. Um, what are your
And the
memories? Yes. What are your memories of season 1, especially as someone in Buffalo?
Oh gosh. Well, I remember the first couple of weeks being absolutely topsy turvy and
Mhm.
complete and utter chaos. Not much has changed there. I remember I remember Kelly Stebbins scoring the first ever Buttes goal.
Do the step.
We
Do the step.
love and cherish Kelly Stebbins in this house.
Yes, we do. Oh,
Um,
wait, Tampa. That's a reason if we wanted to root
no,
for
I
Tampa.
don't. I don't.
I tried. I
I
tried, Tampa
respect it.
fan. I tried. I mean, not even for steady. Not even for steady. That's how you know it's real. Okay.
Listen, my
Continue.
car is named
Continue.
after Kelly Stedman. Okay, my car is
Continue.
named Rocksteady for a reason. That is my car's name.
I
But
would love it.
I love Steady, but I gotta stick with my ads
Okay.
here. Well, let's be real. I think part of the fun of hockey in any form is getting to see a new winner. Getting to see a new opponent, which is what we kind of saw last season with the Whale. But anyway, you asked about my season 1 memories. Definitely remember the All-Star game. That was a lot of fun. Definitely remember the infamous at this point graphic at the end of the Isabel Cup that reverberated throughout women's hockey, not the least of which was my little Airbnb in Ottawa, where I was covering the Clarkson Cup at the time. Um,
That's
I'm
right. That's
literally
right.
sitting there with Zoe
Yeah.
Hayden, and we're sitting there watching the Isabel Cup. Is the night before the Clarkson Cup, and we're sitting there and we're watching, and that graphic comes up, and we both look at each other and we're like, "What the hell is that?"
Oh my gosh.
It was
Okay.
the
So for
surreal
those
thing.
so for those who may not know, again, it goes down in NWHL history and folklore, but so the National Women's Hockey League again had 4 teams, none of which were in Canada, but the graphic, and I feel like it's out there in like the interwebs somewhere.
I'm a
Okay, we're gonna screen share that, baby. But so it was another 4 cities in the graphic, and Montreal was one of them. Oh, it was only 2. I don't know. I'd be making stuff up.
It
Okay,
was a graphic of the 14 that already existed.
okay,
So
and then they added. Okay,
north and added 2 Canadian teams that looked suspiciously like Toronto and Montreal. Now, the funny thing was, back when the NWHL was first founded, there was another women's hockey league, CWHL, Canadian Women's Hockey League,
and that's
which
why
both,
you were at the Clarkson
yes,
Cup.
that was their championship. And I was in Ottawa because that's where the Clarkson Cup was being held that year, 2015. Never forget it. 2016. And it was the final between the Montreal Canadiens and the Calgary Inferno, which is why I was writing about the Calgary Inferno at the time. So that's why I was there. But anyway, so there are already teams in Toronto and Montreal. So to the perhaps casual viewer, certainly looked like a little bit of turf encroachment. If you wanted to go the bare bones, banal C-dub versus N-dub narrative, which a lot of people did at the time. I'll be
Big
completely
time.
honest. A lot of people did at the time.
Still do.
Yeah.
If we're keeping it real.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they still do with the P-dub. So, and that's a conversation I don't think is ever going to go away as long as both entities exist, and that is what it is. But when did Colorado get a power?
Well, a minute ago for me.
Well, it's a minute 19 left on my screen, but this is how little I've been paying attention since we started this watch. But yeah, I mean, this is also such a disjointed first period. Like, neither team has really gotten anything going. Except for, like, probably right now, because I see Nate McKinnon streaking down.
Because you said it. And who is it? Ooh, who is it? The Swedish
Is that
guy.
Lekanen?
I think it was Landeskog.
Are you trying to think? Is John Cooper trying to think of how he's going to challenge this one?
Oh my gosh.
He literally sat there looking down at the bench like he was really trying to think of a way to challenge it. It was Landeskog. Lekanen with the initial shot, I think. And then Landeskog was right there.
From the same country as Amanda Zahui, WNBA player, former.
Nice.
And you know what's interesting is it looks like the initial shot it kind of went by Landeskog because there was a Tampa defender who caught the puck in the shoulder.
Yeah.
Which is why then it rolled kind of over Landeskog's shoulder and he was able to punch it away.
He kind of had to tumble over Vasilevsky to do it, but
yeah. Well, he got pushed too.
Yeah, he lost his balance. There's a lot of whiskey in this. Jesus.
Yeah. So what league is it? Women's Hockey League that's going to implement some form of...
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh my God, is this a Swedish league? I can't remember. Hang on.
Yeah, it's definitely in Europe. It was like a little hot story for like a hot second.
Swedish Women's Hockey League.
And I know at U18 World Championships they were talking about it. They were like, well, in this league it would be allowed.
I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like relaxing some of the rules related to body checking. I mean, I hate the conversation around body checking first and foremost. Excuse me.
That's exactly where I was gonna go.
But I think relaxing some of the rules around it is okay.
Yes.
As the game evolves, so is the physicality, so is the strength and conditioning, so is everything surrounding professional leagues and professional athletes. So I think it only stands to reason that relaxing some of those rules will benefit those players who do have a more physical edge to them because they're not getting these unnecessary checking penalties just for playing the game.
And I agree with you on that. And I wonder what that even looks like now, because in the last, if we want to say maybe 5 years, there's been serious implementation of any contact above the shoulders in all sports. Most all sports. Baseball, can't go for the guy's head, immediate ejection. In soccer, any contact to the head, and you have to come off and go through concussion protocol. Even the NHL, of all places, has been starting to roll out implementation when it comes to hitting above the shoulders. And so on the one hand, I agree with you, like there's some things where you have to realize that these are bodies in motion that are sometimes running in opposite, or skating in this case, in opposite direction. There is going to be contact, and not all of it is going to be intentional or like out to kill, or not kill, but to
Out to injure. I think that's really what it
exactly.
is. The main reason to say that is because I remember when Iveta Klimsova played with Beauts, and she was thrown out of a game for a check to the head. Meanwhile, Iveta Klimsova was like 5'10". She's a big girl. She's a big, sturdy girl. She's a tree. And like, it was a situation where it was literally she was just bigger than the player that she ended up checking. And I'm not saying it was a good hit, but it was one of those situations where it's like, okay, was an ejection really necessary?
Yeah, and again, that's where it's hit or miss, because then what essentially we're both talking about now is that there should be room for interpretation. But if we then have that conversation, we even game, there's things like coaches challenges and stuff. So I honestly think, although I'm indifferent at absolute best, anyone who listens to Locked on Kraken knows I give zero cares about hits as a stat or just like in life. But yeah, but it almost makes me wonder if it's not great how it is, but I think that there is this slippery slope where, especially without proper rollout and implementation, and like lol if we think that execution is a strong suit of the MNHL, but without that, I just don't know that early on or ever it's going to be worth all of the trouble of changing,
No,
because we already have trends going in opposite directions that would make that a little bit difficult. So I'm almost like, I mean, keep
right.
it how it is, I guess, question mark, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because I think if we had this conversation even 5 years ago, I think it would have been a lot different. But I think that there is so much conversation now surrounding TBIs and CTE and stuff that we should have been discussing.
Yeah.
That I don't think that this is the right time to really start doing that. I think once we kind of standardize what constitutes a good hit, and that's always going to be up for, like, that's always going to be nuanced. There's always going to be different things that we have to consider with every player, because especially in women's hockey, there's so many variables. I think even more so than the men's game, because you can have teams that are very big and very strong, and you can have teams that are very small and very fast. You put a player like Lindsay Eastwood up against a player like Marie-Jo Pelletier, of course, it's going to be a difference.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's an extreme example. But even a player like Lindsay Eastwood, against a player of average height, like Cassidy Winkle, or somebody like that, it's always there's always going to be a little bit more of a disparity, I think. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But also, I worry about the game. Part of the reason why I love women's hockey so much is because of the room that you have on the ice to
Yeah.
just kind of be free flowing and really kind of.
Yo, what? Wait till you. Okay. What? Yo.
No, 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 God damn it.
Yo, but okay, like.
Who is this guy?
Sorelli. Yo, what the freak, dude?
Who the hell is that guy?
Yo, this bro
He's been
was
annoying me all series,
not
by the way.
playing games, homie. Like
He's been annoying me all series.
this is a thug gangster goal, like if ever. Can we make that a thing? Like, bruh,
No.
I don't think he did it on purpose, but he definitely like nutmegged him. He was trying to go to do a deke, one more deke, but
Oh, he
bro,
literally up. Sorry. Sorry, I keep swearing. I'm so sorry.
no, it's fine. We have an explicit rating on this show, or we
Okay.
can.
So he literally he flubbed the handle on that.
He
That
did.
was a
He did.
lucky goal.
He did okay, but I'm not even hating because that whole thing, like I said, that was a thug gangsta goal that started in the defensive end. Homie is the one that was clearing the puck, and instead of just shooting the puck away, he I almost said dribbled. I was just calling soccer games all weekend. You know, he skates up the ice, then passes it off at the blue line and makes himself available again. Like he might not have meant for the finish to look that way, but listen, it's game 3. Y'all got your asses handed to you. You dang right he's gonna take that goal. I think that was that, like I said, that was a thug gangster goal if ever. Like
That was a stud garbage goal, but
it
it's all
wasn't
right.
pretty. It wasn't pretty, but like, yo, you gonna take that dub. You gonna take that dub for sure.
That was all right.
Hey there! Hi, hater!
Bye.
Yo, that was tough. That was tough. I'm not gonna lie, that was tough. I'm a neutral
That's
party.
the first time I've seen them skate that fast, to be really honest with you.
That's what I'm saying. That was a tough goal. That was tough. I have 5:35 left in the first. Tampa Bay has more shots right now than
By like one or
Colorado.
two.
Yeah. Yo, come on.
What?
They're showing the replay again. Like, that was tough. He definitely didn't mean to do that, but you know what? It's all good in the hood. A goal's a goal.
Meh.
Meh. Meh.
Meh.
But
Uh,
I think you're right though. It's gonna be interesting to see how situationally things change, or if that's something over time that other leagues adopt regarding body checking. I don't know. I think it's an interesting conversation, but one that I'm not really that interested in having in women's hockey. Just like,
no,
yeah,
no.
right? Like, just
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it being the way it is right now. I mean, I think
leave
we've
it
seen enough.
alone. Just leave it alone. Yeah, it's not necessary.
I
It's
think
not.
we've seen enough players injured without the body checking implemented the way it has been. So I'm okay with it not going that way. I mean, like I said, as the game evolves, do I think that there can be talks surrounding um relaxing those rules? Sure. But it's not one that I'm like holding my
Yeah.
excuse
Maddie has
me.
to head off to work. Well, thank you for joining or watching on replay, listening. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But that's kind of what's happening in women's hockey. We also had U18s. I mean, any big surprises there, you think, as far as what the top teams were looking like? Another
Um,
USA Canada
mhm.
matchup.
I mean, I'll be very honest with you. I kind of peripherally paid attention just because life kind of went pear shaped. Um, but I mean, I think that when it really comes down to it, I mean, I think it's still going to be U.S. and Canada for quite a while. I think that it's definitely going to be one of those matchups that is just going to happen. Do I think that there are other teams that are getting closer? Absolutely. And I think that as more pro leagues develop, as more national programs develop, I think that it will just get better and better. You're going to see more of those teams creep up. You're going to see, I mean, I believe it was, if I'm looking correctly, I'm just catching up a little bit. But
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to see Finland start becoming more dominant. You're going to see teams like, even, you know, I know that they're kind of outliers at this point, but like teams like China and Japan kind of step up. I mean, there's pro leagues there now that are really kind of, feeder leagues for these national programs essentially. So, I'm excited. I think if the free agent camp this past weekend with the Beauts is any indication, I think you're going to see a lot more of these international players come over and kind of push themselves to kind of what is the word that I'm looking for? To kind of meet North American, and I hate saying that North America is like the standard
It's
for women's
kind of
hockey.
true though.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh God.
while
It's
you
2-1.
catch up.
2-1.
I love it.
All right. 2-1. Yep.
Non-evil twin Eric on Twitter was listening when I said you could just see the white.
Oh my God.
Oh gosh, come on. It was right there. I'm sorry that you had to change your shirt, but also, you know me, I like to get a good hearty laugh from everyone on a broadcast and especially on an unfiltered podcast like the Founding Four podcast with
Yeah.
Ayala and Angelica Rodriguez. Whoop whoop.
Yeah. But I really do think that you're gonna see a lot more development. Like I said, if the inclusion of more and more European players is any indication, in the pro leagues, I think you're gonna see a lot more of it.
To that end, I mean, since you brought it up, and I think that women's hockey has done itself no favors by having these very public squabbles, whether we're at a point in time when the players want to admit to it or not. But I think what we've seen, just as an example, in the WNBA, 26
Yeah.
seasons of the WNBA, or what we have seen even in 10 seasons now of the NWSL, is that all happened in one league. Now, in fairness, both of those sports had leagues that preceded what we have now, the NWSL, WNBA. But once they started getting momentum, um, they kept it. And I guess I'm really trying to say that I look forward to when hockey can get through these growing pains. I do think that they've lasted a little bit longer than at least I think that they should. I think there were good reasons for the separation at a time, but we're getting to the point where we're kind of nitpicking, in my opinion. And that's not to say that either option is mm, completely, what I would say player friendly stamp of approval. Um, but again, that is sports business. And I think there's a difference between saying something's not good for the players because it's just not up to par, or something's not good for players because there's not a leadership give and take where players have a voice or any
Right.
real autonomy. So I'll just leave that there for now.
Yeah. I think that I mean, if you really want to get down to it, and this may be coming out of left field because I am a little tipsy and already annoyed at this game. I think that the argument surrounding women's hockey and one league and whatnot, I think it is really a privileged one. I think that
On that, okay, let's crank that up. Talk about it.
it's a privileged one because I feel like these are players who, especially when it comes to the national team, these are players who have gotten equal pay. They've gotten what they've wanted. Now they can kind of squabble over the spoils of that. They can squabble over what they feel is most important. And I don't think that the WNBA has ever been in a position where they could do that because it's like either you take this or you're done. Like this is what we have to do to survive. And I don't know that women's hockey has ever really been in that kind of a oh, he's hurt.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
I don't think women's hockey has ever really been in quite the same boat. I think that it's been somewhat similar, but not nearly to the level that women's basketball or any other women's sport has really been in. So it's very easy for them to kind of get lost in the minutia of all of it, rather than just be like, you know
Let's
what, this is what we
talk
need to do.
about that. I'm so glad we're recording this. I definitely want to come back to this on the Founding Four pod because, I think that there's a big temptation to compare women's soccer and women's hockey, and I get it. A lot of the players, especially on the equal pay battle at the national team level, are the same, and by that I mean Billie Jean King in particular, and the way that she's fostered a generation of women in sport. But we have to also look at, as you mentioned, the privilege. The WNBA battle, you know what kills me is that the WNBA uh, has been able to fight domestically, as you said, to do what you were just saying, but only in the last really season or two. And some people will argue, well, their salaries were bigger, but that comes over time and that comes with a direct NBA involvement, for better or worse. Like, let's also keep that privilege on the table, the privilege of time and consistency. Um, and that is something the WNBA has. Let's keep it real. And they've also earned the right to fight for that next, because for them that looks like very little national team celebrity, which in some cases makes it harder for them to get sponsorship deals because no one really gives a dang about international women's ball. We take it for granted that they're going to win the gold medal, which they do, but we don't highlight their run up to the gold medal in the same way that we do for the women's soccer team, in the same way that we even do for the women's hockey. So that is a privilege that they don't enjoy. So to compare what the WNBA has to do and has been able to do, and who the players, like physically the athletes, but then also like the people, the key people, who they've been and what they look like, and how the importance of them being able to fight regardless of the fact that the majority of them don't have someone from Associated Press who will hang on their every quote and put it in the paper, regardless of how many times that paper does or doesn't cover them when they play a regular ice hockey game. See, now I'm on my soapbox because this is what I'm talking about when it's like, oh, well, it's very similar. And I'm like,
Not really.
yes, but no, it's because it's not. I don't think you can compare it, only if you were to put movement building in silos. And as someone who spent a lot of time in the nonprofit sector, and especially on social justice, I have a problem with how we take certain things with these broad brushstrokes and say that they're the same. It's like a few things are the same, yes. And I can see why you might think that makes these things similar, but if you dig deeper, if you look at the circumstances, if you remember what kind of a country we live in, then you will see that no, neither one of those three buckets is exactly the same. And for good reason. They can't be the same because each one of those buckets should, if they're smart, parlay their competitive advantage. For soccer, that's the relationship with US Soccer Federation domestic league. For hockey, in my opinion, that's the celebrity of some of your national team players, which we've seen people trying to play into that. But that also has stayed stagnant and only blips every 4 years, which is a disadvantage that they have. What I would say is the differential in the WNBA is that more so than any of those other two national teams, and even especially in their domestic league, they are lockstep. That doesn't mean everyone agrees with everything at the same time, but they talk it out and they make a decision that's best for the collective and they hang on to that. We saw blips of that in the US soccer or US hockey movement, but as I reported, some of it was there was an over exaggeration of the unity that existed. And at some point, pretty early on in that movement, people were feeling misled by some of
Yeah.
the language that was put out. These are just facts. And these
And
things
we saw
happen.
that, yeah. And we saw that in the first year. I mean, we saw
Exactly.
it.
The first month we saw
Yeah,
that.
the first year, a couple of years, when some of those players who weren't necessarily national team players, went back to the then NWHL after realizing that it's kind of get mine and everybody else is kind of like secondary. And they don't like to pretend. They don't like to say that. They like to pretend that it's not that way. It is that way. It's been that way. I've had players flat out tell me, like, I just wanted to play, but if you're not a national team player, you're not a big name, they don't care about it.
And
And
you want to talk
that's a
about
shame.
how these movements are similar. That is a similar through line.
Yep.
And it always will be because there's an elitism that comes with playing for the national team. And there's a part of that that absolutely should be. And I would be fine with that if it wasn't that all of our US federations are absolute trash and they're not transparent with their process. And there have been people left off of the soccer. Hello, let's talk about that real quick. People that have been left off the most recent roster. There are people like Candace Parker. I'm not even a big Candace Parker fan, but how she got played by USA basketball and will go down as one of the best women's basketball players ever. And she spent more time in the WNBA becoming elite than she did on the national team. And
You know, like in the hockey, you want to talk about Michaela Grant-Mentis. Why the fuck has she never been on an Olympic roster?
But people will swear up and down that it has nothing to do with race. I was gonna say, I mean that too, but let's keep it funky.
It's true. It's true.
Swear up and down that doesn't have anything to do with it. At this point, if it's not about the PHF and it's not about race, then what is it about?
Yeah.
Explain yourself. You make no
Yeah.
sense. You make no dang sense.
There's no excuse for letting that pure of an offensive talent slip through your fingers when you won by the skin of your teeth in 2014. You lost by the skin of your teeth in 2018. You won again by the skin of your teeth in 2022. That did not have to be.
That, and from a U.S. side, the United States played well for a team that was in absolute rebuild mode. I think if they had even maybe an extra 30, even with that Decker injury, I think they could have over. I think
Well,
though
they could have played a couple of their. Yeah, I also think they could have played a couple of their younger players a little bit.
That's what I'm saying. There, and I don't know how much that there wasn't time in the lead up, and you're like, you go with what you know. I think that could be a valid thing. That's not necessarily what we heard from Joel Johnson, but if someone were to tell me like, oh well, World Championships wasn't enough. One camp before the freaking Olympics wasn't enough, so you go with what you know. I mean, it's a choice. It's a choice.
It's not the right one.
Agreed. I mean, do you want to be tinkering at the Olympics? Absolutely not. But can you, as the United States? For right now, yeah, you can. And I think you let those young bucks, give them some time early on when you have time to recover.
Right.
But wearing, out your veteran players who in hockey, as they like to say in hockey, are on the wrong side of 30, during COVID.
Yeah. I mean, but that's exactly it. It's like, oh well, they didn't have time to prove themselves. They didn't, like, how, when are they gonna get time? It's
There was no
it's
time to give.
there.
Y'all didn't make time.
You have to take the time. That's just what it is. You need to make that time work for you, because if you don't make that time work for you, then you're always going to have that excuse. You're always going to have that reason of, oh well, they're not proven, they're not this, they're not that, because you
Right.
never gave them an opportunity.
That
You
part.
know, if you give somebody like Jessica an opportunity, let her show you what she, you know, you give a third string goalie an opportunity, they can give your
Well,
workhorse goaltender time to rest, especially
well,
when she's injured and coming back from injury.
goaltending. What in the world? They were
I
like
always
basically
hear
like homegirl
on,
wasn't even walking a month before the Olympics and then started the most games. And I'm like, Aaron Frankel just out there for the picking, and this is what y'all do. Now, I will say Riggs did better than I thought she was gonna do, so I won't front. That being said, if it were my team, she wouldn't have been on that roster, especially now with that injury. Hell to the no.
time to recover.
Hell to the no. And I mean, good for her. She had that moment, but to your point, like, uh, just think of what what means more to USA Hockey, giving her her last hoorah, or potentially having her back healthy for another run. Because I mean, again, USA federations seem to like having older players, especially if they look a certain way. Um, and so, why not give her that opportunity? But more importantly, why are you playing to what appears to me to be narratives instead of playing to the talent? Like, if you want to tell me Aaron Frankel isn't good enough to compete against someone who wasn't even on the ice a month before the Olympics, you mean to tell me that Rigsby was stopping more pucks than Aaron, who was on the actual ice? Like, how bad do you have to be for them to take someone that has, like, what was it, a meniscus situation? Like, what? It was like a ligament. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like, I would be hella pissed. Like, oh, y'all think that little of me? Like, I literally can't even get in
right.
for a goalie who won't even be on the ice right before the Olympics. That's trash.
It is trash. But
That's like
that's what I mean. You give
it's
three
not
goaltender
nepotism, I
spots.
guess. I don't know, but it's crazy.
You give three goalie spots, and then you only ever play the one into the ground, and then you wonder why you didn't win a gold medal.
Yeah, you wonder why you didn't win the gold medal. I mean, like overuse. If ever there was overuse, I mean, I just think it's wild to use the goalie that was injured more than any other goalie, and they didn't even need her to play all those games. They didn't. Okay, you want to get her one before the knockout round? Cool, cool, cool. Tight, tight, tight.
Yeah,
There was no reason for all of that.
surely wasn't.
Not at all. At all.
Surely wasn't.
I
Surely
can't.
wasn't.
I literally can't. And then I feel like Abby Rock also was dealing with injuries, but
Mhm.
she got time because Decker went down.
Yeah, that's probably the only reason why she got time.
Like, Jinsey doing who that? Who knows?
It's just like, it's so mind-boggling to me. It's like, did you choose them because you actually wanted them on your team and you thought they could contribute, or did you choose them because you expected people to know, like, you thought people would expect them there and you just didn't want anybody to question it, but you never really had any intention of utilizing them properly? And then again, you're wondering why you're not getting the results that you want, because you're
I
not utilizing your team properly. Oh, what PHF team does this sound like right now? I'm not going to mention it right now.
Whoa, that took a turn, folks. That took a turn. I feel like we might know exactly who you're talking about since you switched the gears there. Let's talk about the Premier Hockey Federation. Ooh, okay, so the Boston Pride become the first ever back-to-back champions. And hot take, some people know this is how I really feel. And Paul Mara, yes, I said what I said with my whole chest. Y'all shouldn't be back-to-back champs because y'all shouldn't have been in the playoffs last season.
True.
Drops
True.
Mike. Drops Mike.
True.
Listen,
Connecticut will still in there.
listen, like, feel how you about listen, putting all the other crap, actual bullshit that went down last season in the end double, as I like to say. If you're not going to tell people how you picked the teams, if it wasn't based on points and it wasn't based on COVID, then you're setting yourself up to look really foolish and for people to ask questions that they rightfully should. Like, do we to this day know why, based on the standings and the point system, why Connecticut slash the Riveters, like that, those two teams I think were the ones that, well, Connecticut was essentially the third place team. I think it was
Yeah,
more
I was
so
gonna
the
say
Riveters, Boston, Buffalo. Like that was really the situation that got a little
if
wrong.
we're gonna talk honestly about it, the Connecticut Whale should have been that last lot. And instead Boston got it because Connecticut had initially said we're not playing in this because we don't like the risk that we're running. And then when they decided to put a pause on the season and say, JK, we're gonna have it in Boston now, for whatever reason, they were not brought back because they had given up that spot. And that to me is bullshit.
Well, Connecticut was in the playoffs. Connecticut came back. It was the Riveters that didn't. The Riveters got pulled from the regular season, and then who knows what happened during the restart. And it was between Boston and Buffalo to then get one of those spots. And yeah, I don't know. It was suspect. It is still to this day very sus to me. I don't really understand. I mean, I can make some guesses, but if you're gonna do that, then you say with your whole chest. Say with your whole chest. But you know what? Even though that's how I feel, and yes, I would tell that to Paulie to his face, they got it done. You know what? That's a kind of championship mentality. It don't like that first Tampa goal that we were talking about. Was it pretty? Hell no. Did he mean to finish that way? Absolutely not. But did he get a goal? Correct. And that's kind of what it was like for Boston. They get the restart. They get the restart on home ice. Did that make a difference? I mean, during COVID, who's to say, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that having their confidence kind of boosted by playing the same Buffalo team, 5 times in a row,
Oh
kind
my
of
god.
helped.
Yeah.
Just like it did this postseason in Tampa when they finished off the regular season against Buffalo and then had their first round against Buffalo. And I'm still trying to figure out why Carly Jackson started all those games. Just saying. And I think everybody here knows I am a Carly Jackson stan. Like, I love that kid. Like, that is literally like my homegirl right there. She should have started all those games.
I mean, there were a lot of things that made absolutely no sense in that end double season, and it was wild. It was crazy. The bubble burst in a big way on multiple levels. Um, so anyway, Boston wins that, and they were not a great team in the regular season. Their power play,
No.
who that was she?
I don't know her.
Sorry to the special teams. I
You
know
know,
you.
I'm saying all this crap about the Pride, and I literally had Tito's mom's hat on. The thing is, I love Mal. Mal, you're my girl. I love her, but
Listen, this
girl,
ain't got nothing to do about feelings, like how I personally feel about anybody. This is just calling things out. And I
no,
know
it's
Paulie,
telling you
like,
what it
post
is.
game after the championship was like, "Oh, I know, Erica, you didn't think that we were gonna be here." I was like, "You damn right, I didn't." No, why would I? Why would I?
There was absolutely no reason to think that they would be there. But again,
Because they looked kind of messy. They looked hot messy. There was a stretch where they looked hot messy. Then they were like just kind of messy. And then, they had Katie Burt who came in, ultimately won out that starting net mining spot. Now I know Lovisa Solander seems like she had gotten hurt for a minute there. I think Victoria Hansen is such an underrated asset to the Boston Pride team that we don't talk about enough. It's hard for her to get minutes when she has Lovisa Solander, and then again, Katie Burt earned her keep from at least what Paulie Mara was saying in media. Like he told Katie, like, you're gonna have to come in and work for this. You're not just gonna get it. And then by the end of the season, that's their go-to goaltender. But I mean, Victoria Hansen, every time her number has been called, for the most part, she's stepped up and been a great asset to Boston, and obviously is very loyal to that. But I mean, I think to that franchise, but I think is going to be interesting, and we might be seeing this. I don't think it's really player driven just yet. I do think management is deciding where they want to put their coins, and then players are reacting to how they feel about that. But we have an increased salary cap. We also have multi-year contracts. And how would you say you've seen that play out in what we have going on with the PHF?
um, I think I've seen it play out in certain ways. It's hard to judge because we haven't heard a whole lot from some teams. At least not yet. I think that the two teams I've heard the most from, I mean, the Riveters are in that conversation, but the two teams we've heard the most from are the Whale and the Beauts. And it's a mixed bag. I think the Whale are playing it very smart. I think that they are bringing back their young core. I think if I'm a GM, if I'm Alexis Mode in that case, I'm 100% playing it that way.
Yep.
It's not broken. That team was excellent all the way through. They ran into a Pride team that was hot at the right time. It didn't happen, but you absolutely bring back your core. You bring back the people who got you there in Marchment and Gerard and Ives and Wolfeiler, all of them, and they're playing it very smart. The Beauts,
Tell us how you feel.
they're playing a riskier game. They are playing a much riskier game. I think that I respect the hustle in getting MGM for that amount of money. I respect her hustle in getting her bag because she deserves it.
Get a bag, get rich.
I also think that multiple things can be true at the same time. And I think that them signing MGM for that much money without nailing Carly Jackson down first is a huge gamble that is probably not going to pay
Mm.
off. Nate Oliver talked about those sacrifices, and I'll have that in a notebook down a little bit later this week for TIG.
Ooh,
He
I'm gonna
talked about
make a
making
little note about that. We gotta make sure we let folks
he
know.
he mentioned making those sacrifices and figuring out like how you're going to bring back the camaraderie and the feeling of last season where you didn't necessarily have the best team on the ice, but you did have a team that had a very close connection, who was a lot of fun to watch, and who above all wanted to compete for each other and wanted to play for each other. And I think that CJ was a big part of that. And again, call me biased, that's fine. But I think that when you are a GM facing a, a doubled salary cap and the players who were most valuable to your team last year, you nail down every single one of those players before you even think about trying to get a big fish. That's just
Yeah,
my
I
two
mean,
cents about it.
yeah,
Um,
I think I think it's gonna be interesting because another thing that we can assume is the case with the PHF and the teams is that there are signings that have not been announced.
oh,
And that leads me to for the second season, Boston is going to announce their roster at the same time. So first, Do you have an opinion on whether we should get the signings in real time or on the league's time? And then also, what are your thoughts on Boston announcing their entire roster at one time?
Well, I mean, I think it makes it harder for the fans. I think it makes it harder for um players to kind of gauge where they're at. And I also think with in this off season, I think it's unprecedented. The movements and the contracts we're seeing for this season. And I think that it makes uh for a much harder time for players who are still trying to negotiate deals to have one team announce all of its signings at once. Because inevitably, you're not going to get specifics that you need. You're not going to be able to see how maybe you're a player that's similar to a Kayla Friesen or a Katie Bird, and you're trying to see how you match up value wise when it comes to signing a contract. And, you may think you're getting Kayla Friesen money, but you're not. You may think
Mm,
that you're getting,
talk about
Taylor Winkowski money, but you're not. So I think it makes it really, really difficult. And I think that it is, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a smart move on owner and management's part because now they don't have to worry about nickel and diming some of their better players or some of their players who may not be like top 6 or top tier or anything like that, but who are still worth a pretty penny. And I think that I think it's smart on their part, but I think that you're really screwing over a lot of these players who may not know necessarily how to negotiate. Yeah, you have some of the bigger name players who are getting represented by the one agent who is actually working with them, which I find very shady. But at the same time, there are players who aren't getting that kind of representation. There are players who may not know how to navigate that system who would benefit from disclosures in real time where they can say, hey, look, this player has my kind of stats and, you know, give me what they got. And they no longer have that as leverage. So I don't know how I feel about it. I think that it's, again, being somebody who advocates for players no matter what, I think that it's kind of a raw deal for them.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things that are definitely better for the league, but I have a lot of concerns still for a from a players association perspective. Obviously, they went through some changes there and are at a point where they're really just kind of onboarding their new executive director. They don't have a CBA, and this new PA director has taken over after the free agent window started, which it started May 1st. The salary cap, we've mentioned it, but just to anchor it, the salary cap is $750,000, maximum roster of 25 players. Uh, Usually teams carry through where that was actually dictated, but who actually knows what the terms are? It's hard to keep up. But the salary floor is $562,000, give or take, and that essentially 75% of the cap. Teams have to spend that much. On her turf, has a minimum because for a while we didn't have player mins, player maxes. Still don't think we have a player max to cap how much a player can make in a contract. But the player minimum is $15,500. The PHF reported, or on her turf reported that the PHF said that was to allow for part-time contracts. So um, I mean, part-time contracts in and of itself is very interesting. And that's where you see this is still very much a league in transition because you have some players that are signing, 80K for 1 year. You have other players that are signing 2-year contracts. that are not 80K total. So what, like, where are we? I feel like it's kind of like name, image, likeness right now. It's kind of like pew pew, the wild wild west of the PHF. And it
Mm.
will be all the more reason to what we were talking about before, why I think it's important for the players to have representation, to have a voice. And again, free agency already opened up by the time they got their executive director settled. We know that our good friend, as we said, nothing but love for Mike Murphy. I did not partake in the Twitter exchange around his salary tracking. I know Mike and I had talked about salary tracking in the way before, and I'm not talking COVID, but we talked about salary tracking. I'm glad that he started doing that. I will say this: I don't know all of the particulars. And to your point, when you have one team that's signing all of its players at one time, if there was a salary tracker, um, at least they would have the other five teams that they can look at to gauge where they feel they are competitively and look at that statistically. And so if you are saying that you want women's soccer to be more professional, I think that does come with having these conversations be more open. There has been a back and forth, even players getting more comfortable with that, but just like you had to get used to people knowing your date of birth, where you went to college, your weight, and your height. You're going to have to get used to people knowing your salary. Period. Like, that's how I feel
And
about it.
yeah, I mean that's how it's become for every professional league. And I hate to say it, but men's professional leagues have been that way since I started watching sports and probably beforehand. So I don't think that you can really I don't think that you can really kind of plead your case that that shouldn't be the norm. Also, I think that that kind of speaks to a larger conversation we need to have in general about salary disclosures, just as an entire workforce, like a general workforce in society.
Yep.
I think that there should be no shame behind salary disclosure in the
Exactly.
slightest. Um,
Oop,
and
got
uh,
another one.
and I just, it's it's something that's always kind of bugged me about the whole thing. Like, and I knew that it was going to happen, that there was going to be this level of kind of secrecy about it, and your teams were going to find ways around, disclosing player salaries and disclose. Oh,
I figured you'd be getting to it soon.
there we go. Look at that power play. All
Look at
right.
him. Look at him.
Let's talk again.
Two times. I love it. Yeah, I
Six
think you're
months.
absolutely right, especially about that happening at the industry level in sport, but then also at the just societally. What? In society, there we go. I was like, listen, that mezcal is hitting hard. Um, but yeah, I think those should be things that we want to do. And again, we got to give a plug. We are the Founding Four podcast, co-hosts Erica L. Ayala and Angelica Rodriguez. And Founding Four will now be the flagship podcast of Black Rosie Media. So very excited. And part of what I want to do at Black Rosie Media is not be competitive with rates and be open and also to make sure that we are providing resources on how to negotiate. It's critically important as women, and particularly as women of color. There's no reason, unless he's like hella conspirator to share his salary with us as women of color, even more particularly, because stats will say he's making more money than us. So, and if, and it's great if they want to share, but more often than not, I can't remember a time where I've had a conversation with a man about a salary. And that's just something that I have to get more comfortable with. Um, that being said, as a part of the collective sisterhood of women and people of color in sports media, I do think we need to find ways And it can be tough because sometimes there is, Brene Brown shame, and as far as what we are or are not doing, or what we know or don't know when it comes to advocating for ourselves. But we have to realize that statistically speaking, I mean, equal pay day is very interesting because I do identify as black, but I'm also Latina. So it's like equal pay day for women is, I don't even know when. And then equal pay day for black women is sometime, I think, in July. But equal pay day for Hispanic and Latinas is not until the fall. It's usually around like October, November. It takes a whole ass year for us to make as much as our male counterparts, white male counterparts. So
Yep.
that's like statistically speaking what we're working against. And if we don't get more comfortable speaking within what we are getting and what we do or don't know and what we need help negotiating for, or what's even possible. Like, I was on social
Mm-hmm.
media the other day, and I was because I have to chase down my money. Half of what I do as a freelancer is chasing down people. Where is my money? Like, F you pay me style is how I really feel when I'm typing out these MFing emails. And then someone was like, "Oh, you should put it in your contract that if that money is late, they got to run you interest." I was like, "Wait a minute. I didn't even know I could do that."
Hmm. Yep.
I was like, "Yo, this is about to be a game changer," because you know how it goes. You're an independent contractor. Usually they have a standard contract. But here's the thing, and I do know this from being raised by an attorney. You, as if you, it was old school, but it used to be if you got a paper contract and you strike something through and write something over that, if both parties sign and initial, that's a good contract. So same thing. You want something in your contract, ask for it.
Yep.
And if you have something that you put in your contract that works for you or that you think should be standard, share that.
Yep.
And we don't
If
do
you
that
don't,
enough.
yeah, if you don't ask for it, it's not going to happen. If
That
you
part.
don't ask for, if you don't ask for the maximum of what you think you're worth, you're not going to get even half of it because
That
people are
part.
going to give you what they think they're worth. And I've had to, I've had to do that the hard. I've had to think of that the hard way. You
Yeah,
know,
me too.
I,
I mean,
I've been
things that are
able
bad
to.
contracts.
Yeah, I've been able to, and this is just in my regular day job, because obviously I don't, unfortunately, I don't yell about women's hockey for a living, although I wish I did. Um,
We're gonna get there.
but just, yeah, but just, in my day job, being able to work and show, thankfully, I think that I work in an environment where it is a little bit more merit based in terms of salary at the very least, because we do look at merit raises and we do get money based on what they're worth. And I know for a fact that I have gotten more raises than my male counterparts because of the work that I've put in. But, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that
Yeah.
nearly enough. Um,
And
and
go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead. Yeah.
And I was just gonna say that, like, bring this back to hockey and equal pay. This is why sometimes the equal pay argument gets on my nerves, because it comes very much so from where white men are, or where men are in the conversation. Like, "Oh, well, we're not asking, when we say equal pay, we're not asking for that." And I'm over here like, "Well, why not?
We sure as hell should be.
Why not?" To your point about know your worth. And
Yeah.
I think equal pay conversation, and you there's this great audiobook that I've been listening to. It is called Never Split the Difference. Let me make sure I get the author's name. But he was like a hostage negotiator, talking about like how to negotiate things. And Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I listened on audiobook. But the negotiation isn't based solely on, in this case of sports, what other leagues, other comparable leagues are doing. Is that a part of it? Sure. Should you know that research? Absolutely. But here's the thing, and as I like to, oh my goodness!
Waiting for it.
Whoa, this game is wild.
I'm waiting for it.
It's coming. It's coming.
I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Oh my goodness. Yo. I mean, you kind of talked about goaltending early on, though. Stamkos. Mm.
That's not what I want to do.
Mm.
Is there a way that like losing teams can like decline a goal? Like, no, thank you.
No. 4-2. I'm at the 11:57 mark in the second. Landeskog has the 2 goals for Colorado. I think, does Tampa have 4 different goal scorers? Let me look up the.
Yeah, Stamkos, Sorelli,
Yeah, Sorelli scored the first one. Stamkos just scored.
Ayala.
Yes, and then who scored the third one?
I don't know, some bearded dude.
Some dude from Tampa. Because own goal's not a stat in hockey. Um,
All right,
but
Colorado's desperate here, and I don't like it.
yeah. Tampa's feeling it at home. Ooh, that didn't look good. That didn't look good.
But we also talked about penalties, and Colorado's taken quite a few.
They get lazy. They straight up get lazy. I'm gonna keep it real. That's what I saw when I had that game. They played New Jersey. I thought that they just got lazy.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a period and a half to go, so we'll
They
see.
went down. I don't know. It didn't look great to me.
Oh no.
Yeah, right. I think
I
he
just I
lost his
thought
edge.
that.
I think he lost his edge, and then to your point
Then
earlier, like he was falling, and so by the time the hit, which would have been a hip to hit comes, there's nowhere
it's hip
where
to
is he
shoulder.
supposed
It's
to
the head.
go? Yeah, now his head is at the guy's knee. Literally, that's what happened. You can't get mad at him for that. Like, look, he loses an edge. He goes into the board awkward. That's honestly what I was most concerned about. And then
He just wasn't even. He didn't even make contact with him all
because
that
he's pulling
much.
up because he saw that he lost an
Yeah,
edge.
he
So
pulled up, and his follow through went into the glass.
exactly, because there's nothing to hit. So that's what I'm talking about when we talk about changing.
Why in the hell did he just shove Darcy?
I
The
guess
fuck
he
is wrong
said
with you?
something, but
What did
also
Darcy?
like, bro,
Darcy
I
didn't
don't
do
know.
shit.
Now here's a situation that's what we were talking about earlier, where you have very much so incidental, if and it's minor compared to him going into the boards with. It did not look like it favored his ankles, but now you have that's a penalty.
Right. Well, I mean, the good news is that, well, I don't know how good it is, but Tampa decided
Also
to retaliate, so now it's 4 and
retaliate
4.
exactly. So now, yeah, it's 4-4. But I don't know. I feel like that's a tough penalty. Like, and that's the whole Nazem Kadri thing, which is we could have a whole nother conversation. Like, listen, the dude, there's not too many hockey players that haven't, taken some questionable hits or given some questionable hits.
That
But
wasn't one of them.
that definitely wasn't one of them.
That was
Absolutely.
criminal contact to the max. That was him going for the puck. Jordan Binnington's own fucking teammate shoved him into his goal.
Correct.
That was exactly what happened. And I'm sorry, all the shit that Kadri got for that. And again,
Unbelievable.
not just me, it was completely unwarranted, disgusting, an excuse for the fans to be racist as per usual. Because doesn't need a lot. Don't need a lot to do that in the NHL. Or in hockey in general. And
Yeah,
it's
it
just
was
a
trash.
situation that makes me so goddamn frustrated because it's just like, I'm not saying Kadri's a saint, but there has been nothing that this guy has done that warrants that amount of vitriol. I'm sorry, there isn't. And the fact that he is just like raked over the coals for something that wasn't even his fault is
Yeah, that
So,
was absolute trash. Bennington, not a fan. And I mean, has the NHL to this day said anything about that incident? Anything?
no,
Hockey's for everyone. Woo!
I don't think they've said a single thing about it. I know that Kadri and his family had to like have police protection and shit like that. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Another player of color being threatened with, death and worse because, or his family being threatened with death because of something that was not his fault. That's
Yeah,
cool. It's
yeah.
just like,
Ugh, trash on trash on trash. Okay, so I want to go to something, and I know that last time we spoke, you said you hadn't really caught up with what was going down with the Steve Dangle podcast and Adam in particular, Adam and Jesse, I would add, but and them talking about Pride and Stonewall in particular. So this came up on my feed, and I want to mention it because I think we talked about it earlier, and I think this whole situation with what the NHL is and isn't going to say at what times, and how much do we really believe in hockey is for everyone as anything more than a catchphrase that sells cool stuff every once in a while. But the reason I want to bring this up, so just a little bit of background: the Steve Dangle Podcast Network. um, Steve Dangle, I can't remember their last names, but Adam and Jesse, they do the podcast together. And so it's, as we mentioned, it's Pride, and they wanted to do something for Pride Month and have a specific segment on the show. And so I guess the guys had talked about it because one of them asked, "Oh, are you going to talk about Stonewall?" And Adam said, "You know, I'm paraphrasing here. Go watch it, but if you want." But what I heard him say basically was that he didn't want to talk about Stonewall, and that he had a different opinion than a lot of people on Stonewall. And the what I deduced from what he was saying, because he was kind of speaking between the lines and wasn't very direct, it was not very well communicated, and he has since said that, and has said, "I fucked up. I will say that he said that." But the comments were kind of like, "Well, I don't want to celebrate Stonewall because there was an act of violence." And then Jesse, and this is what really pissed me off personally, it was like, "Yeah, because it's almost like, there's statues of people, and then you realize that these are not really great people." And it was alluding to comparing any violence, and I don't want to say air quotes because it was a riot, like it's called a riot for a reason, but comparing Stonewall riot to racists throughout American history that have statues on campuses at city. What was that? Yo, wait till you see this one.
I don't want to. I don't want to. These goalies are having a mid-off right now. I'm not looking forward to this.
Yo.
Christ almighty.
Yo. What are these goals, fam? Yo. They're like playing some like street hockey shit here. Like goalie change.
Well, yeah, I would fucking well think. Get him the fuck out of there. Put Frankie in.
Yo, that was
Frankie, Frankie,
filthy.
Frankie,
That
Frankie.
was a filthy goal. That was disrespectful. That was actually disrespectful. I have 5-2 Tampa Bay goalie change or Colorado 837 on the.
What the hell was Darcy even doing? He had his hand behind his back, like he was trying to scratch an itch. Like the fuck? It's already in there.
Yo,
Frankie!
that was disrespectful. Not only
I
because it was a
I
goal.
am fully blaming this on somebody, they know who they are, who said that they were not going to be able to watch this game because they had a prior obligation, and now that they're not watching this game, the Avalanche are losing. So
well.
She gonna kill me.
Also, it was disrespectful because it ruined my conversation and commentary about Steve Dangle Podcast Network. But anyway,
yeah.
So Jesse comparing like, any beef people have with the Stonewall riots and who is celebrated during that, and comparing that to statues of like Confederate soldiers.
Yeah. So basically, comparing.
Didn't sit well.
Yeah.
So Adam reached out publicly on Twitter, also reached out to me via email and said, I'm going to talk about this on the next podcast. Took me a little bit to catch up with it, and I haven't shared my feedback with Adam, so I'll be transparent about that. But what I would say is, so in his response, in his apology, he basically said that he's not going to do the segment on Pride Month, and he heard what people were saying, and that it was, he should, his words, shut the fuck up, or words I guess that he was being told, and that they weren't going to do it. They're still, I guess there's a donation that they have going to a particular organization in Toronto, in Ontario, which is where the podcast and the guys are based. So I'm of a few minds here. One, for me, um, the conversation, and people will probably disagree with this. I think it's fine to feel that Stonewall. I don't want to. That's not what I want to say. What I want to say is, it's kind of a conversation that we have in sports. It's fine to say, "Hey, this is a great player." And let's talk about somebody else. Like, yes, Stonewall is important, but if we only talk about Stonewall, then we are missing out on opportunities to learn from other parts of the movement. I can get with that. Did I get that from that podcast? Absolutely not. So I think that's what the guys were trying to say. But here's what I didn't appreciate. I understand that there, and I saw some of the comments where it's like, yo, this is not your lane. You're not from this community. Maybe like sit back. And this is what I really, because I know, like I said, you might not have caught up with the most recent episode, but this is the conversation that I want to have. When is white people, essentially, or people who are not a member of the community that they're advocating for, when is that line between shut the fuck up and if you're not talking, then there's no progress? I feel, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a time when, as people of color, if we're talking only to people who have no interest in our humanity, then the movement doesn't go anywhere. So so I was a little bit disappointed. I understood it, but I was disappointed that Adam took the opportunity to tap out, because you and I can tap out of conversations, but there's certain conversations that arguably you can tap out of that I can't, and vice versa, just because of how we identify. And I think it hurts. If I'm keeping it 100, it hurts to hear people say, I heard what you said. You're right. I'm not from this community, so you know what? I'm just not gonna say anything. And I'm like, yo, if I don't show up and talk about this, like, this could be my life. This could be someone from my family's life. I can't just, whoop, nope, not gonna do this because like someone criticized me. I don't know. I've been really struggling with that because I don't know that we can afford for people to be tapping out when we're talking about literal lives on the line.
I mean, I think that, and I'm speaking as a queer woman, obviously, because that's how I identify. I'm part of the LGBTQ community. I think that if you're not willing to talk about the nuances behind your reasoning or anything like that, because I mean, it's all well and good to say that you're not going to talk about Stonewall, because you don't want to glorify an act of violence. that act of violence is an individual's act of violence against an oppressive system, and you're likening it to an entire oppressive system against a marginalized group. And that's a false equivalence. And if you're not willing to recognize that, and you're not willing to explore your own issues and your own false equivalences in that respect, then maybe you shouldn't be talking until you've educated yourself a little bit more. Because I think that's where the issue comes with me. I'm not going to sit here and excuse anybody who wants to make that kind of equivalence, because it's not right. It's not something that even the two things aren't even remotely comparable. And the fact that he would even think to equate those things means that he hasn't done enough research, he hasn't done enough reading, he hasn't done enough education on the gay rights movement, on Stonewall, on any of it, to be making any kind of statement on it. So I think that's where it comes through. If you're willing to learn, or you're willing to use your platform to give other people the chance to educate you and your audience, absolutely, I think that you should do that. And I think that's probably what should have happened here. For him to just entirely shut it down is just, again, kind of showing, it to me, it rings of, well, you guys don't want me talking about this, so I'm just not going to talk about it at all. Rather than, I'm not the right person to have this conversation, I'm going to bring somebody on here who is of that community, who can use the platform to provide the information that I want to get across to my audience. That was the appropriate response.
Yes, and I do think, in fairness, I do think they said that there were plans that Harrison Brown was one mentioned. But here's my, I think I think you make an excellent point, and it needs to be amplified. Is that if you can make such a faux pas, then you haven't had enough conversations. And also, this is what I think, if I'm keeping it real, I don't think white people think about, or anyone that, as we both do, it sits on an intersect, whether that's race or anything else. More often than not, will think about, okay, well, this is where I'm coming from, but is this, yo, this game is out of control. Goal!
Anyway,
Any, like, any,
um,
yo, disrespectful. Disrespectful. Oh, dang. Oh, no.
I've shut off this game. I don't much care anymore.
Better, obviously. Yeah, like you said, if you're not doing the homework, I do think that's one thing. I do think, and this is where the criticism and how I ended up involved in this, I will never know. But anyway, the criticism for the Riveters, during, before, and during, and till today, out of the end double season was, well, we're hearing that there are these conversations, but what is happening from those conversations? And I think that it does come off in disingenuous when you say you're having conversations, ever go back and circle back to summarize who you brought in, what that yielded, or what it will yield. And not every conversation I have about a lot of things is going to be public. I summarize things
No,
because I happen to be someone who's on a podcast or, does writing. But do I think that every single conversation that I have about race and racism in sport needs to be documented live? Absolutely not. And I think that if you're not willing to, with your full chest, show what you've learned from those conversations, that you should
yeah,
expect for people to ask for follow up. Just like, I mean, switching gears here and trigger warning, but the sexual assault case that we had with Kyle Beach, and the NHL and the Chicago Blackhawks in particular saying that they're going to hold each other accountable, and then a reporter getting absolutely just ruthlessly and publicly berated for asking a very simple and logical and fair question shows that not all of the conversations or not all of the dissent for conversations about these things are in earnest. They are tricks, they are ploys, they are manipulations, they are gaslighting. So for you as a white person to look at one statement, even if it comes from, okay, you want to talk about pride and you go to a voice that you know in the queer community, if that person is white and or male presenting, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem. Like, how many times do we have to tell y'all that it's cute and you need to think about who you're bringing to these conversations? Because if we're still talking about pride through the white male gaze, then that's not what we're talking about.
No, exactly. And I think that to go back to that point about the riveters and about, public conversations versus private ones, I agree. Not every conversation does need to be made public, but when you have members of your organization who that publicly committed the things that hurt people, and then liked tweets and hung out one of their teammates to dry, essentially, in, without even saying anything, I think that you owe people a public statement as to, how you're making up for that, how you're atoning for that. If you fuck up publicly, then you need to apologize publicly. And
Right.
that has,
And
I think that too many.
go back to that's what I appreciated about Adam. He reached out in like privately and publicly.
Mhm.
People don't always admit their fuck ups publicly and want to be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, let's talk about it." Well, I'm talking about it over here, homie. Like, let's have this conversation.
Right.
Anyway,
And I think that, I think that too many people, especially in women's hockey, and I think this is also the reason why we still haven't addressed Digit Murphy's transphobia as a league. We still haven't talked about a lot of the things that we need to talk about when it comes to inclusivity and when it comes to progressivism within women's hockey specifically, but also hockey in general, is that we're not willing to have those conversations. We're not willing to publicly say what it is that we did. I don't know if that's just a way to, make people like pull the wool over people's eyes to make them think, oh, well, they're apologizing, doesn't matter what for. I've grown up with family members who did that shit. And I can tell you, I don't take it from them, and I'm certainly not going to take it from people I didn't really know. You're going to say what you did, you're going to own it, and you're going to tell me how you are going to actionably change it. And if you're not willing to do that, then you don't deserve that. Period. End of story. I don't give a fuck how good you are. I don't care how much of a winner you are. I don't care what kind of name you have behind you. I don't care who you are in this field.
wow,
You don't deserve it.
what a play.
So,
Yeah, and it's that accountability. Interesting that in sport generally, there are all these ways and mechanisms that are built into the sport itself, things like that, and the culture of any particular league or team that are built in to hold people to account. But when it comes to things, again, that are literally life and death for a community of people, that we don't take it that seriously. What is There's like a million breakaways in this game today. Ooh.
So the team can play defense right now.
Yeah, like where's the defense? Who? Where they do that at? Not Tampa. Not Colorado.
But yeah, I think that's kind of my biggest thing is that, and this is how I felt in, just in general over the course of the past couple of years is that I don't, whoa.
Right?
I don't really care for people just kind of halfway owning their shit. And halfway apologizing and halfway kind of atoning. It's just like, no, like, you said the bullshit with your whole chest. Now you're going to make up for it with your whole chest.
And here's the thing about an apology that people also, that we don't talk about enough as a society. And I mean, as someone who's had to apologize, it's not always comfortable.
No, it's
But
not.
here's the thing: when you apologize, the other person gets to decide not only whether or not they accept your apology, but when they do that. And I had to learn that. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna keep it real. One time I was like, okay, so like I apologize, and then I them to be like, oh, thanks Erica for like coming and apologizing. I forgive you. Let's be best friends. And like when they didn't do that, I was like, and then I had to check myself because that's not on me. Like you should apologize because it's the right thing to do, and you know that it's the right thing to do, and you're willing to atone for any harm you caused. It doesn't matter if
Right.
it was intentional or not. It doesn't matter
You
if
come to do that.
you
You
did
don't
it or
apologize for your, yeah. You don't apologize for your ego. And if you're gonna get mad at somebody and tell somebody more or less that they have to accept your apology, you're not apologizing for the right reason.
correct.
And
And you know, yeah, I
yeah,
mean, we're all human. We have to check ourselves. Like I said, I shared an experience that I had. I mean, generally and vaguely, but I've been there. It's a human thing. And so don't get mad when people are like, "Cool, I heard you, and I'm gonna leave it at that." You want me to apologize? You want me to excuse? I'm not willing to do that, and I get to choose. We get to
yeah,
choose. You know what I'm saying? Like if someone asks, or and I say this on the flip side, like if someone wants you to apologize for something and you're not sorry,
don't do it.
don't apologize. I mean, I
Don't
had
do it.
someone, I had a, we were talking about this. Got 16.5. Looks like we're going to have, yeah, they were mixing it up. Who are they going to give the penalty to?
They're still jawing.
Yeah.
Marud and Manson are having a whole ass conversation, like a whole ass debate about life right now.
Right.
Like, while we're young people, like, let's go.
Wait, did they? Oh, I should have turned on the volume edge. Two guys just went to the locker room. Did they eject them?
I think it might have just been because it was the last
Was
minute.
it?
There's no
Yeah.
having.
They're like, okay. I was about to say, yeah, it's only
Probably,
16.5.
probably just like a misconduct or something, like a 10-minute.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, we'll see. We'll see in the but
Yeah.
yeah, like I remember someone I asked a very simple question. Actually, coming off of Juneteenth, this was during Black History Month, but I asked a question. It was a Friday morning in a Slack group, and I asked a question. It was like I think it was February 14th even. It was right around the 14th, 15th, 16th, so middle of the month. And I asked a group, okay, like as a group, what are we doing for Black History Month? And the editor in chief of that particular outlet responded to me in the group, in the Slack group, this is not an appropriate time or place to talk about that.
Do you think that you don't have Black people in the group? Like,
I mean, there's just so many ways that I still to this day don't understand that. Is it that Fridays aren't appropriate? Is it that 8 a.m. isn't appropriate? Is it that on the 14th of any particular month that's inappropriate? Like, why is that inappropriate? And then this person then in private messaged me and was like, hey, just give me a heads up next time. And I'm thinking to myself, give you a heads up on asking what we, the collective we in a Slack group, are gonna do for Black History. Like, I have to give you notice.
that makes
That's,
no sense.
it makes no sense. It felt weird, and it felt weird.
Don't do
What?
that.
It felt super weird, and also it felt as though like there was a level of control and scrutiny that was completely unnecessary. What are we doing for Black History Month? Hey, girl, I don't know. Let's talk about it. I would have been cool with that.
But I mean, again, it's just, I feel like there is a sense of people needing control, even over situations where they are not the most appropriate people to have control.
That part, yes.
And they need to realize that at that point, again, it's not about them. It's about the people who you're affecting. It's about the collective.
Yes.
And people they're not willing to do that. They're willing to put on the show, and they're willing to put the appearance of being inclusive and being all about it and being for the team, but they're not actually. It's more for their own ego than anything else.
And that's where it's like, miss me with that. And that's why I'm really excited for us to be hosting Founding Four Pod, because I mean, as we can tell from this watch party where we've talked about the NHL like maybe a handful of times, but I mean, we're going to get into these things, and I think these are the kinds of conversations that happen. So is this what people are talking about, or are they trying to have a conversation where they have an absolute end goal and a measurable, I mean, how does one measure after one conversation the impact that you've had on
Right.
racism?
Right.
It's impossible. That should not be a goal. You shouldn't be
No.
doing it to check something off of a box. Not unless you are changing policy. If you're about it, and you're going to start changing how you hire, how you promote jobs that you have, openings that you have. You want more Black people? Are you sending those job openings to HBCUs? Are you sending them to NABJ or NAHJ? Do you even know what those acronyms mean?
Probably not.
And you over here like, oh, if only I could find a group that has professional journalists that are Black or Hispanic. If only I knew of an organization that actually had a list and a directory and has an annual conference. If only, if only.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's exhausting. And that's why, to go back to what I was saying about Steve Dangle Podcast Network, and sometimes I have to check myself, because I have to remember, not everyone is going to climb up a flagpole and rip down a Confederate flag on some Bree Newsom shit. Not everyone's going to do that. Some people are not ready for that. But I get like little tiny oils from people just being like, feels like, in my opinion, let me say this, what very much feels and sounds like, from my opinion, like, yeah, this didn't quite work out. I heard what you said. I am hella vanilla white, so I'm just gonna tap out completely. Goodbye, good night, good luck. I'm gonna, kick my feet up and, not have to deal with this. And I'm just like, damn, yo, that's like a whole nother level of oppression, like, in my mind. That's where my mind goes. But I feel like,
no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's a cop out. It's 100% a cop out, because it's like, if you don't like the way I'm doing it like this, I'm not going to do it at all. And I talked a lot about this in a column that I had for the Ice Garden last year, I believe, or like earlier this year, one of the two. And I think I'm gonna write a part 2 to that, because I feel like there's a lot that we still haven't touched on. Because
things.
Yeah. And it's like, I think that it's people take what they want, take pieces of what they want and leave the rest. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. It's a full list for a reason. You take it and you do with it what you will. And I think that's just another thing, is that, we don't have to take the way you do things and be okay with it just because, oh, well, they're at least doing it. No, you're like, there's way too much out there. It's 2022. There's too much education out there. There are too many resources out there for you to do something so half-assed and then decide, well, if you don't like the way that I'm going to do it, then I'm just not going to do it at all. Like, It's like making a shitty sandwich on moldy ass bread and being like, here, I gave you food,
No.
like, take it. And it's like, no, bitch, that shit's gonna give me diarrhea. Like, no. Like, can we not?
Yo, you have me weak. So I want to go as far as concrete steps and what this looks like. I had pulled this up earlier, and the Premier Hockey Federation had a tweet that I am not out here as Midge Purge. She plays in the NWSL. I don't believe in giving out gold stars for things that people should be doing anyway. So I'm not going to give out any gold stars. I will just share what the PHF tweeted for Juneteenth. It's a list 10 ways you can acknowledge and celebrate Juneteenth by Soraya Tinker. Now, I'm going to start with like the real me and then we can pull back from that. Here's the thing. Soraya Tinker, I got love for Soraya Tinker. Here's the other thing that I know about Soraya Tinker is that she is Canadian. Juneteenth is an American holiday. Juneteenth specifically is a holiday that comes from Texans, enslaved people in Texas, as we talked about on the top of the show. So that's the first thing I noticed. I'm gonna keep it real. That's the first thing I noticed. But
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I was gonna say the second thing I noticed was, why do we have how am I gonna say this without sounding like an asshole? Why in the hell do you have one of your only black players doing the fucking work for you when you are an entire fucking hockey league who has the resources, who has the supposed drive to put together a DEI initiative the right way and not just rely on one of your high profile players to do it for you?
And see, what you just said right there is why, generally speaking, and I am wearing my New York Liberty Juneteenth shirt. I am raising my eyebrow over any team-led, league-led, DEI up my whatever. I can't, cannot. That has like a specialty logo and merchandise. I'm gonna keep it on. I'm gonna keep it 100%. My eyebrows trust it. Now I might like it. I might say like, oh, that design is dope. And then I'm gonna come out of my hyper, commercialized brain for a minute and be like, okay, but you have used your marketing and you have used culture to grab people's attention. Now what are you doing? About it? And you talk about high profile, you talk about and again, love Soraya, her voice.
I love her too.
It's understandable why they wanted Soraya Tinker because of her voice, but they missed. They're still is like not quite like the Luther Vandross Jerry Curl, like it's not quite, you know what I'm saying? Because if y'all had done even just a little bit more research, you would have realized that I understand why you're tempted to get this. Essentially, I see this as they wanted this co-signed by Soraya Tinker so no one would come for them. But that's short-sighted because had they done their research, they would have been like, yo, Soraya, can you point us to an organization, or what would you say about what this organization from Texas in the actual United States is saying about this? Like, give her the talking points, show that you did the research, still have her be the face if that's really what you want to do, but don't have it come from Soraya Tinker. As far as I know, and maybe I don't know everything about her, but unless she wrote her thesis on the celebration, I do know she did not write it on that. Maybe she has another paper I don't know about, but she's not the one. And yet you don't have another black player to do it, so do it as the league and uplift an organization from Texas that is informing you about Juneteenth. Yeah. That's what you should have done. Take the right out of it.
That's exactly what I mean, though. That's exactly what I mean, though, is that if you didn't know, and again, that goes back to you didn't do your research, you didn't do it properly. And we're not going to give you stick taps for bare minimum and doing it incorrectly. It's again, it's not
Yeah.
it's not difficult to do this right. Like, it's not difficult to do this right
Right.
if you just pay fucking attention.
Correct. And so, do I disagree with these 10 points? No. And you still fumbled the ball. And if someone calls you out on that, you should be like, you know what? Thank you very much for that comment. We didn't think about that. Let's see how we can improve it. So even though this is like broaden your knowledge by reading and reflecting on Black history and Juneteenth, can you drop a link? How'd you find out about Juneteenth? Like, that's a very broad statement. Buy from Black owned businesses. Drop a link, homie. Drop a link. Who is the PHF partnering with? What merch companies are they partnering with? And this is what I'm saying. Someone else mentioned this. Maybe it was you and I talking off air, or it was somebody else, but like, you had a whole ass team put out a Black Rosie jersey that has the colors of the Black Liberation flag. Why aren't those on sale? If you really want to be about it, buy from a Black owned business and you still get money towards that team or toward the league or whatever. Learn to cook traditional food. What tradition? Traditional to who? To where? To Galveston,
Yeah.
Texas? To anywhere Africa? Like, my traditional food doesn't look nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so don't get mad when people call this out, because you should have done better.
Right. I mean, and let me not, bring this back to Buffalo, but you have an entire team in Buffalo, and just a little over a month ago, the Black community here was targeted by a white supremacist.
That part.
And there was nothing about that.
Also a miss. Also a miss.
Yeah. So I mean, if we're really going to be about that when it comes to the Black community and when it comes to Juneteenth or whatever the case might be, you know, maybe consider that. And that was easy. That was a watermelon right down the middle. And you fumbled that too.
And these are the things that most people are not going to talk about. So, is it great that they did a post? It's good that they should do a post. Again, we're not giving out gold stars for what you should do. It's a federal holiday. Do your thing. But I liked better what, for example, the NWSL did, where they had the Black Women's Players Collective. They're promoting their merchandise. Specific teams had a thread where they were recognizing Black owned businesses to go to. And to support. You say support, pull up on me. You want people to pull up, drop the link. You drop the link for everything else. Drop the link.
There's a Black community in I'm sure there's a Black community in every single PHF city there is. I know good and goddamn well there was events, there were things that could have been. Buffalo just had Black Restaurant Week leading up to Juneteenth.
I mean, come on.
Could have said something about that. Could have, threw out some books to read. Could have thrown out some links to articles. Could have thrown up some documentaries. Could have done something other than just a graphic midday, and that's it.
Yeah,
but again, it's
So, I mean,
it's the appearance.
You dipped your toe in the pool. Now it's time for you to continue the progression. Like, we need you to be all in here, because we're not giving out gold stars for things that are basic, are absolutely basic. So that's what I wanted to say about that. I'm trying to think what else we had on our rundown. I think we should probably, I know you were at free agent camp. So I want to speak about like things that didn't even have a graphic for. I don't even remember if I got an email for this, but we had, what was it? At least 2 of the franchises that we know have had free agent camps. Free agent camps, oh gosh, I just don't understand why the league is so behind the eight ball when it comes to communicating free agent camps. I mean, maybe they're better at communicating with the actual players. I mean, here's hoping.
That's funny. Wow.
I mean, they have to be, right? But it's just
Um,
it's such a miss.
I'll
It's
tell
such
you
a
that right
missed
now. Nope.
opportunity. It's such a missed opportunity. Why would you not promote far and wide that you're having a free agent camp? It's again one of those things, just like in hockey, there is ice, you have a puck, you have players, you have skates, you have sticks. Sports have free agent camps, they have combines, they have all of these other ways to let undrafted players know that they have positions, or at least will open that up. And what is that? That's free publicity essentially in the off season, because as journalists, if you tell us that you're having a free agent camp or a combine or a workout, or if you're having two of your teams play in out of market in Tulsa, maybe you should let people know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, you were at this, alleged free agent camp, at least one of the two that we know about. You were at the one in Buffalo. So, what did you just quick? I know you've got something coming out, but like quick takeaways that you want to share.
Um, I mean, I don't foresee a lot coming out of it, to be really honest with you. From what I understood, there's only 5 more spots that they're looking to fill. It sounds like the Beauts are really trying to get everything together quick, fast, in a hurry. To be honest with you, I don't know that means that we're gonna necessarily get announcements quick, fast, in a hurry. But I do think that they are trying to nail down their roster as quickly as possible so that they can try to get some of the, I guess, some of the spirit of last season's team, uh, you know, with a little bit more talent. I mean, I don't know. It's a situation where it's like, I think that there's a lot of good that can come from camps like this, because you do have a lot of um, players who probably wouldn't have gotten to look otherwise, especially from, internationally, or from some of the smaller D3 schools and stuff like that. I think that there are players who I probably wouldn't have known otherwise, but I'm like, oh yeah, they're not that, they're actually really good, and I can see them. Um, I think you also kind of get people's hopes up a little bit, because, I mean, the two biggest names that I noticed were Tara Hoffman and Rebecca Morse. They were there in Buffalo today, this weekend, and both of them looked really great. So obviously, the hockey brain in me starts thinking like, wow, I mean, they need a shutdown defender. They need potentially a third goalie. Uh, that's like, let's make that happen. And both of them seem really into coming to Buffalo, but um, you know, we'll see. Um, but also some of those little diamonds in the rough. I mean, I think that without camps like this, you probably don't get somebody like a Cassidy Winkle or a who else? Claudia Kepler or something like that, where, it's somebody who is maybe not a little bit of an outlier, but, somebody who is a little bit of an outlier, who,
Yep.
you might have thought otherwise. So, like I said, the pickings are few. I think Rhea said 3 forward spots, 1 defender, and possibly a third goalie. So 5 total. They're looking, and 36 players were there all together. So, lots of talent. I think that it was one of the better put together camps. They did limit it to like collegiate and professional / national team players, which I think kind of heightened the intensity a little bit, because these are players who kind of go in knowing what to expect. They come off maybe a little bit fresher because they've just had their seasons, or they've just come off of postseason.
Right.
So I think that that kind of upped the level a little bit.
Okay.
But I mean, things remain to be seen. I think that for a lot of it, I've um I hate to say that a lot of it is for show, but I feel like when you go in knowing you're only going to pick 5 of 36 players, a little bit is for show.
Well, I mean, and yeah, that's not, I mean, that's like being a walk on in college. It's rare for a reason. So, I mean, even going undrafted and getting to training camp, we see that in a lot of sports as well. That doesn't guarantee you a spot. But I do think that the league needs to grow towards they have more interest and availability than there are roster spots. But again, I think you make a great point. I'm looking forward to whatever you write, breaking down, how the competition is different by how you invite people. And I mean, again, going, we talked about elitism a little bit, and I have, generally speaking, some questions about what happens when you don't properly or widely amplify things like this. I think we know that that impacts players that have a less traditional route, and usually those players are players of color. So I just, want to put that out there, but I do think it does speak to there being a heightened level of intensity, even because of where you say the crop of this group was recruited from, just fresh out of college or coming from another professional league or spending time with a national team, a federation of sorts. So I think that those are all things that we should see in a professional league, and I think there need to continue to be avenues where people who fall outside of those markets can find their way. And a part of that, I think, is by announcing when you're actually going to have free agent camps. The league should be announcing that. I mean, the teams, obviously, they're hosting, and they're ultimately going to be the team that signs. Here's the thing about free agent camps, it's not unusual, or just kind of showcases, it's not unusual to see coaches from multiple teams go to one free agent camp, regardless of who's running it, because that's a way for them to scout as well. One, I think, is it an unfair advantage if only certain teams are having free agent camps? Should it be required? Should it be required then that all of the teams announce when they're having their free agent camps? Like, where do we go from there? And I think there is a bit of a separation now that we're getting closer to independent ownership. That being said, NHL, right, which is the big model that everyone wants, things that the NHL will promote, even if it's one of their teams doing it, because it makes sense for the NHL to look like they know what their teams are doing. They absolutely should know what their teams are doing. And this is now a 32 team league. We're talking about 6 teams, and you mean to tell me that the main accounts can't promote what's happening when they have literally nothing else to tweet about?
Right, right. You're completely right. I will say, from the perspective of, you did mention you had a good point about players of color potentially being iced out of these free agent camps. I will say that there was some diversity in the camp. We did have Mariah Hines from ECBC Memmingen. She is actually a pretty decent defender. A little bit on the slower side, but has really good size, really good puck handling ability. I was very impressed with her. I also noticed Krishanda Green out of Ryerson University. I think that she is pretty solid two-way forward. I definitely see her being like a good bottom six, kind of a grinder. We also had Chisato Miyazaki and Luna Sasano, both Japanese team players. Miyazaki is adorable. She's like this tiny little thing, and she's all over the ice. Extremely fast. Not fearless, not afraid to get in the corners or rough it out along the boards. So I was really impressed with her. And she plays out of the Japanese league out there. And again, Luna Sano, originally from Harvard, but also has some Japanese national team experience, played U18 out here a few years ago. So I think that Nate does a good job, I think, altogether of trying to incorporate that side. Um, he's never shied away from finding, some of those outliers and bringing them into the fold, at least giving them a platform, giving them a chance. So that much I can say. Yeah. So.
I mean, and you know how these things go. Again, you might not be picked up by this team hosting this particular free agent camp, but I mean, we saw that Haley Williams came to free agent camps and went to a handful of them that happened last season and pretty much knew coming into these camps that there was an offer elsewhere. But it's also, which I thought was really cool, and shout out to Dan Rice because I was able to talk to him and kind of shadow him as he was doing these interviews. So definitely go check out his final. But talking to Haley about, just being able to get reps. If you create a
Mhm.
competitive camp, you'll have competitive players who might not have any interest in your league. And, I think there are worse things to do as a professional women's hockey player than take advantage of ice time against some pretty good competition.
Absolutely.
And the leagues
Absolutely.
use that to their advantage. Get these free agent camps sponsored. Like, why are we doing? I'm giving y'all free advice now. Like, get these sponsored,
I was gonna say you better cut it off now. Like you put that behind a paywall, sis. Like
right? But I mean, come on, like, what are we talking about? If anyone wants to sponsor Black Rosie Media, we are totally open to sponsorship. We do need to be aligned. Thank you very much, though. So I'm just saying, like, listen, we gotta manifest. But feel and felt way for years. This is not a new thing under new leadership, under a new name. This has been an Achilles heel for this league. I can't speak to exactly what that looks like in the CWHL, and some could argue, is it quote unquote worth the resources to host a camp on a league like the CWHL, especially in their first handful of seasons that was still very much a growing league.
mhm.
I think if you're asking that question, you're kind of telling on yourself.
Yeah, pretty much.
You got to do what it takes to be a sports, an elite level sports league. And if that's not what you
Yeah.
want to do, then just be real about it and be real about your where your growth stages are. But if you're going to say that you're having a free agent camp, but players especially don't know how to get hold of it, don't know who's in, don't know, like, and then media doesn't know that it's happening, and even when media do know that it's happening and then we go and we don't have a roster.
Mhm.
And then I remember being at one camp and it's like, oh yeah, like, don't release this roster, and it's like, well, why not?
It makes no
Like, why
sense.
why shouldn't we be report who's at
Yeah.
free agent camp?
Yeah. I mean that I will say. I think that it was well put together. I mean, roster was there. It was pretty open. They told us what was what. Um, I think that altogether, and I think I'm kind of lucky in that sense that, Nate Oliver came up through the media circuit, so I think he kind of knows how to treat his writers and his media. So I think we luck out here in Buffalo. Um, but yeah, no, I totally understand. I totally get where you're coming from. I will say that I have heard quite a lot of people, quite a lot of athletes. I can't speak for other teams, but quite a few people, a few dozen, reached out to the Beauts to try and see what was what and where the land lies in terms of getting on the roster or at least trying out. So definitely sounds like there was a lot of interest between May 1st and now.
And that's what
Um,
you want. That's what you want. I mean, go ahead.
I'm sorry, that I was to say that in turn just makes it very competitive for sure.
Yeah, and I wanted to switch because, I mean, we've alluded to Digit Murphy, and she has a new role with the Riveters. Anya Packer made an announcement that she was not coming back. It sounded like that was a decision that she made, or at least, that's how it came across. But we also see that they have made some changes at the head coaching role, and that Ivo Mosek, who had been serving as the head coach and was on track to be the longest tenured head coach for the Riveters, is now serving as an assistant because they made a pretty big acquisition, Angelica, as far as visibility and name in women's hockey. Now, as the head bench boss, tell us about that. Your thoughts?
Venla Hobie. I mean, listen, that's a hell of a get. It really is. I think that it kind of shows the direction that the Rivers want to go into. I think that for a while, I mean, obviously they did put their trust in Evo, and they still do to some extent. I mean, they haven't gotten rid of him completely. I think, keeping him on as an assistant kind of shows that they do still have some faith in him, but they are trying to get, I think, a little bit more. I'm going to try and be diplomatic about this. I think that they are trying to get back to where they were in 2018. I think is really
Yeah.
what it is. I think that they were much more focused on the hockey then. I think they were much more focused on the cohesion as a team then. And I think that they had all the pieces in place.
Yeah,
I
it
think they've
was.
gotten
That
away
was his
from that.
third season, and he put in the work to make that happen.
Hmm. So I think that all that said, I don't think that that was the same feel from this past season. Just observing them on the ice, observing them off ice, especially in Tampa, I did not see that same cohesion with the Riveters. So I think that getting a head coach who can kind of maybe rein that in a little bit and really get them back to basics, I think is kind of where they're aiming. At least if I had to guess.
Yeah, and I mean, also signing players with international experience. We know that women's hockey is still pretty top heavy. I think that will change sooner than most people are willing to admit, but still top heavy. So to be able to recruit players that not only play for like the Finnish national team and have experience there, but playing in the Swedish league in particular against some pretty top tier talent that if they're not playing here, they're playing not only more consistently, but also playing more games in a season, and that's you know pretty important as far as I think there's a few things. I think we keep hearing that people in North America want the best players playing against each other day in and day out. If you think that the best players only populate the U.S. and Canadian national team, you are sadly mistaken. And so to have again some players of that caliber, and we've always had international players in this particular league. Way back when we had the founding four, the Riveters actually had a lot of Olympians that have come through their organization that were represented even in the 2022 Olympics. So, I mean, that's always been a thing, but starting to find that consistency, finding truly, players that, if you look at the record books, are kind of top tier, and finding them in executive roles. I mean, Casey Bellamy is someone else. We haven't even talked about the new commissioner, Reagan. So who comes from USA Hockey, which that's a whole nother thing. But I think it's going to be interesting to see. I do hope that, to your point about the Riveters, and I don't have any reason to think that it won't be, but it's one thing to have the name recognition, and it's another thing to put aces in places. And so, what I hope that we see is that we don't see these big names and like future Hall of Fame type level people. I don't want to see them just here because of the shock and awe value. I really
Right.
hope that they're being put in positions where they can be successful, because then the players underneath them will be successful, which is only going to elevate, of course, this particular league, any individual franchise, but has great potential to impact women's hockey. And so we're always talking about, like, grow the game. you don't just grow the game by, signing someone's handmade sign. You also grow the game by showing that you know the game.
I mean, and we haven't even touched on, Angela Jane's enhanced rule with the six. We haven't touched on Melody Davidson.
Yep.
You know, joining the Fed after her All Star.
Fed. Always cracks me up.
You so I think that in general, I think the league is kind of making more of those moves toward legitimacy.
Yep.
Which I think is a big part of the reason why we haven't seen Digit Murphy go anywhere yet, other than to another team, because she does have the pedigree behind her. She does have the name behind her.
Yep.
She does the connections to the board of governors.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because I think that as a whole, this league could do better. But, you know,
Yeah. I mean,
um,
I don't know. I don't even know. I do want to get your thoughts on so I know that as the Murphy news was um becoming circulated, that being that she was going to the Metropolitan Riveters where she's now working. I did want to get your thoughts on Mark Jocelyn out as head coach in Toronto. Did you see anything in how the team reacted to him that would indicate that a coaching change was necessary?
that is something that kind of shocked me. I'm not going to lie. I didn't get any kind of sense that there was anything wrong there. Um, if I believe this was a Digit firing shortly before she left. If I had any kind of inkling, I think it was a Digit firing. And if she's to be believed, the players didn't like him, but to be really honest with you, I don't believe a single word out of that woman's mouth. So I really couldn't tell you. I mean, I think that he put together two very strong seasons. Um, so I'm a little
Well, Digit was
confused.
coaching last
Oh, that's
season.
right. Digit was coach and like Placid. He put together one very good season.
Yep.
Obviously, if I had to guess, it probably had to do with a lot of the fact that the six really did fall apart in the first round. But again, it's one full season for the very first, like it's their very first full season. It's their very first like real test in
Yep.
the postseason. So to come in as a number 2 seed and fall apart like that, yeah, sure, it's not great, but I don't necessarily think that there was anything that I saw um, that would have made me guess that it, wasn't working out with Murph. And yeah, I definitely forgot Digit Coach. I think because I was just trying to forget that entire thing.
She
But
stepped in to coach. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Like I said, or like you said, I didn't really hear any mumblings. I heard good things, but I mean,
right,
we have also unfortunately become conditioned to expect certain answers. I mean, we joke about the hockey answer, but also just in sports, part of the reason that some of the abuses that we see go on for so long is because or athletes feel obligated to give cookie cut answers to the question. It's like Groundhog's Day, I'm sure, for them. They hear the same questions all the time. Anyway, yeah, I don't. I'm very curious to see. Like I said, I hope it's more than just name recognition. I really do hope it's aces and places, and good things could definitely happen with some of these key players. Just who they know, what they know from the women's game, the PHF. So, all right, with this MNHL game. Tampa Bay is up 6-2, but Colorado is outshooting them 36-27. 9:05 remain in regulation.
I think Vasilevsky is definitely the difference maker here. And it just, again, goes to show you what good goaltending can do.
Oof.
I don't think Francouz has necessarily been bad.
Yeah.
Darcy Kemper he hasn't had a great showing, but prior to that, he was. I mean, prior to that, he was playing solid. So, I just think it's a matter of, I think the Avalanche just kind of came into this game a little too loosey-goosey. And I think it's a matter of them. I mean, you can just tell. I mean, they've taken plenty of penalties. They've, not capital. Well, their power play has actually been pretty good.
Yeah.
I think their goals came on the power play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, their power play has definitely, kept them afloat, but they haven't gotten anything going even strength. And passes aren't connecting. They're not utilizing their speed. They're not using the neutral zone. They're not doing any of that. I think it's just been a lot of single players flying down the ice at this point. There's not really that cohesion that we saw on Saturday.
I mean, that's for both teams, though. Like, the breakaways have been ridiculous. But to your point, like, not pulling that all together, I mean, the team that's been more successful in this night is up 6-2. They scored 4 in the second frame.
Mm-hmm.
And the Avalanche only get one of those back. Just like complete domination. Yeah, you got to the scuffle, the little scuffle.
Well, I saw that Josh Manson got boarded essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Watching Corey get absolutely manhandled. I love it. It's great.
So it's looking like, I mean, if we really wanted, we could do another one of these. Maybe we'll actually watch the game for the next watch party.
Right? For real though. No, but if it's lopsided, when it's lopsided like this, and it's not necessarily a good showing really from either team.
Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the score, it looks like Tampa Bay is absolutely crushing them, and yeah, sure, but they're getting outshot, and a lot of the goals that they've scored have been real weird bounces, one way or the other. So it's really, and again, they don't ask how, they ask how many. So there's that. Yeah. But it's not really been a necessarily entertaining game. If I had to talk about, I hate to bring it back to Saturday, but even with the score being so lopsided, 7-0, it was still the way in which Colorado played as a unit, I think, made it a much more entertaining game.
Yeah. My camera.
You were able to fully see the special teams, and you were able to really see how they were. Ooh, that was a good save. You were able to really kind of see how they came together to just completely stifle an offense-heavy team like Tampa Bay. So
yeah,
it's this is not that. This is just very much chaos.
And you can see, I mean, even since we've been talking, as I try to get my camera back working, but I mean, the teams are over it. They're starting to do basically a boxing thing where you just kind of grab somebody so you get a little breather.
Yeah, here we go. Yep. Good old extracurriculars. We love it. There's no reason. Did Kucherov hurt himself trying to go after Taves? I think he did.
Well,
I think he really did.
For a reason that you don't do that. I don't know if I'm getting my camera.
I really think Kucherov just hurt himself trying to go after Devontae.
Oh my!
Unless someone hit him on the way over there, but that didn't make any sense to me.
Oh my!
What? Oh, okay. He kind of hyperextended his back a little bit, but then he mugs him from behind. What sense does that make, sir?
Sir, get your life, sir.
Sir.
Hello, sir. Sir,
Oh, fuck's sake. 5-on-3. We have not seen this.
I don't
These are the Avs at their worst. This is the Avalanche
know.
team
They
at its
can,
worst.
as much as they can pour it on, they can also have some severe self-inflicted wounds. Again, I saw it in New Jersey.
Mhm.
Oh,
They're just
and
shooting
they played
themselves
the
in the foot
Devils.
right now. And I'm sure part of it's frustration, but again, it's frustration that they brought on themselves.
Correct.
Nobody told them to take their foot off the gas this week,
All gas, no
especially
brakes.
coming off of the game that they had on Saturday.
I don't know what's happening here. It like
I was
won't let
gonna
me.
say, are you good?
It won't let me be great. Like I just don't know. We're testing out Riverside. First of all, love the quality that you're able to get just because of how they record. But I don't know. This camera, first of all, it's a little temperamental. But now it won't let me be great, so I might be on black screen. Blackety black. I'm blackety black. Ah!
Oh, we're not doing that tonight. Oh my
Listen,
god.
listen, listen.
Listen, Linda. Listen, Linda.
Linda. Yo. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't want to let me be great. So apologies for our viewers, but listeners, you should still be able to hear me. We're still testing out Riverside. It's a great format that we will definitely use when we're recording Founding Four Pod, as it's going to be Angelica and I the rest of the way. But make sure that you're checking out the Patreon posse for Black Rosie Media. We're going to be using that to make sure that we are paying our contributors, starting with our flagship podcast, Founding Four Pod. So, yeah, they're showing the injury again.
Yeah, he like hyperextended his back, it looks like.
Back or knee or something. I don't know.
Something. He bent back.
Pain.
Yeah. I mean, I just went to the Cairo today and she pushed down on my lower back and I wanted to cry.
Ooh.
So, like,
Ooh,
I
that sounds
can't.
amazing.
Oh, I could do that better than she could today, but it's gonna hurt again tomorrow.
Well, the good
I'm
thing about
so literally so tight. Oh,
oh gosh, I know. I've started really working on my hip stretches. My hip, I don't know, my left hip be acting cray. It's because it was my sliding hip, like, from all these years of sports. I'm like, oh my gosh, why?
what is
I miss,
Colorado doing?
I miss having a trainer stretch me out before and after everything.
Colorado just took Frankie off. Frankie's on the bench right now, and they're
Mm,
playing with an empty net.
sure. Like, there's data.
Oh,
I follow the amazing Allison Lucan, and there's a lot of data. And actually, we saw Buffalo do it in the PHF, but there's like
yes.
this new trend of pulling goalies hella early.
Yeah. Well, that was with like 3 minutes to go. This is like with fully 5 minutes to go, and you lost the fucking puck. Good job, Nathan. And now he's gonna try and do it all himself.
I mean, also, I guess it would be nice for momentum, but are you really going to get 4 goals in 4 minutes?
I mean, stranger things have happened. The Beauts did that too.
That is true. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that
Taylor.
game was amazing. We want to talk about season one memories. That is the best game I have ever witnessed with my own two little eyes. Like that comeback. I know that they lost it in overtime or shootout, I think it was, but still, that was the most amazing comeback.
Just like wild. Or even what a Kersey was able to do in the outdoor game.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, Taylor. I don't know that she's coming back. I would love for her to have one more season, but I don't know. I think last year was kind of a harbinger of that. I mean, again, nothing has been announced. I mean, obviously, MJ announced her retirement pretty much off the bat, but nothing's been announced with Taylor, so I really don't know. This is pure speculation, but if I had to guess between her job and her engagement and just everything, I don't know that she's going to be coming back,
Yeah,
which
it seemed like
sucks.
there was injury stuff. I'm not sure if it was COVID related at one point also for Taylor this
Right.
season, but it just seemed like a rough one. Never really could get her stride. Do I think the Beauts are better with Taylor Kersey as their captain and on the ice for them? Absolutely, yes. But we also know that Taylor Kersey, there's some Canadian hockey player I've heard once or twice that might also be a cop. But oh my gosh. But Megan Acosta. But I think it's tough. You have a league that is growing to 2 year contracts that is going to start paying some players at least are going to be able to negotiate contracts where they feel they might not need an additional job. But for those players that came up and did need those jobs and now are building parallel careers, what do? Do they just stop? Not everyone's going to want to do that because they
Right.
might be, they're, likely closer to retirement than, they're obviously than their rookie season. So I think that also is interesting, and that goes back to what we talked about. Yo, these fights are getting out of control, homie. These dudes are throwing down. Yo, okay. Yo, I've never seen a hockey fight like this. And it's like straight up like abusive the way they just let them get punched in the face like this.
No, oh, here we go. O'Connor and Colton, is that who you're talking about? Jesus Christ.
You see what I'm saying? Yo, they're talking about like some ludicrous throw them bows. I was like, oh damn. They really out here. Drop own on them. Drop own on them.
God!
Throw them
She goes
bows.
ludicrous, throw them bows. Oh my God.
Listen,
That's how it
listen.
started. That's
They
how it
like
started. Dude.
Okay, hold on. I wish my camera was working, but just know that I am in the camera for dramatic effect. But give me hockey Twitter where someone shows that sequence and puts crime mob over it. Yo, I will fall out if I knew how to do it. Andy, I don't know if he's probably not watching live. I'm gonna make sure I cut this. Andy, I need your help, homie. Let's get some Nuck If You Buck over that fight sequence. Yo, I would fall out. I would fall out. Nuck
Yo,
If You
if I were
Buck.
a ring DJ, let me tell you.
Yo, come on. Let's go. I did actually maybe I gotta see if I can do it because I definitely did that for something that happened in the NWSL last season. I was like, yo, y'all have been in the new season for 5 whole minutes and already got people scrapping, like throwing hands, throwing absolute hands. I've never seen a hockey. I'm not saying that they don't exist because I know like Ryan Reeves, for example, like and
Yo,
and hey, yo, you want to
the guy who scares the absolute hell out of me when he fights.
Yo, a menace. He don't play like he over here like what's his name? Logan Paul, Jake somebody, whatever that white dude is. Like you don't want none of this. He'll get his behind
So
knocked.
whatever that white dude.
Yo, he would get his butt knocked. Yo, Ryan would be like, you know what Ryan would do? It would be like, yo, I'm gonna be hella disrespectful for a minute, but also this is the founding four pod, so we got to take it back to the first season. Reeves would freaking angstrom somebody. No!
Bye. Goodbye.
Yo, Molly Engstrom be knocking people out.
Goodbye.
One shot.
We're not talking about that right now.
Yo, I don't condone
What
violence.
I was gonna say though was that Ryan Reed laughs when he fights people. That is not the mark of a sane human being.
Yanni Gord does too. But he's small. He can't hurt nobody. Not like Ryan Reeves. Yo, I see you trying to move on. I see you trying to move on.
Hurt nobody.
I see you trying to move on. Listen, I'm just keeping it real. We all know.
Oh my god! I got a
name Megan, last name Duggan. I'm just saying, it happened.
Oh, I decided to start charging my phone. And I'm just gonna hold it because I mean this game's over anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty much over. I'm gonna say Tampa loses. I mean Tampa wins. Colorado loses.
Really? What tipped you off?
The maths. The maths.
Maths? The maths are mathing?
The maths are mathing.
God.
They're still out here shooting though. Pew pew.
Pew pew.
Looking like Blake Bolden on
Oh, that hit the pipe.
Yup. That
was a 95-mile-an-hour shot. God damn it,
pew, 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 pew.
That was probably the hardest shot I've seen.
It's like Blake Bolden shooting on Jonathan Quick. I'm just saying.
You
see that segment on ESPN? Yo, Holmes thought he was like Blake was gonna take it light. She's like, "All right, we'll see how this goes." She said, "Real." I was like, "Yes, that's my girl." Yo, that segment is hilarious.
Especially Jonathan, not so quick. Come on.
Nah, you foul.
Tell me I'm wrong
though. Just like you moved on from Nuck If You Buck. Yo, they're still scrapping. Let's go. Nuck if you buck. Nuck if you buck. Nuck if you buck. Yo, I want it. I want the highlight. Like if the NHL is real, about getting diversity in their media coverage, they're gonna put this over Nuck If You Buck.
They're not.
Oh damn! Tampa fans are throwing shit.
The last time they did that, Kodak Black got misconstrued, thinking that they.
Yo, that was crazy. That
entire night was absolutely insane. I think that was the night that the NHL collectively lost its mind.
I forgot about that. That was hilarious. Oh my gosh!
I didn't forget about that.
Yo, you see Tampa fans throwing crap on the ice. Stamkos was like, "Yo, chill, homie. Chill." Yo, this series just got hella wild. To your point, this is not the greatest hockey game, but as far as knowing that this is a series, yo, the gauntlet dropped. Like, come on.
Abs in 5.
This is crazy.
Can I just say, Brian Elliott looks like somebody's nice dad.
Not nice dad.
He does. He looks like somebody's nice dad.
He's like cool dad.
He's like, no, he's like the nice, quiet dad who like drops you off after practice and like has mints in his pocket and shit. And like
mints in his pocket.
Yes, that's what he looks like.
Oh my gosh.
Yo, I noticed it yesterday, and then I don't know why I said Mikko Koskinen, and my mind was still on the Blues. Not the Blues, the fucking Oilers.
What is the Tampa Bay mascot? Is that supposed to be like a lightning bug, or like what are they going for there?
A turd? I don't know. I didn't see him because my stream ended.
I don't know what it is.
Oh, it's literally called Thunderbug.
A Thunderbug? I've never heard of a Thunderbug. Like,
it's because it doesn't exist.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. I was like, why didn't they just call it a lightning? I was like, I don't know why. I don't know why.
Y'all see my pile of laundry in the back. I'm so sorry.
I have half of a wall covered with a backdrop. I think we're doing great. We're doing great. We're doing great.
Ty
Okay.
Anderson just tweeted, it feels like every Lightning home playoff game has ended with Steven Stamkos asking the fans not to throw things at the hometown team.
Womp womp. Stay classy, Tampa.
They can't.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not a hater at all.
Don't let me up there. Oh, that's the wrong song. Look at these little kids behind the glass.
My stream ended. I don't see any of it.
She's like, I don't know what to say. All right.
I'm
Well,
unsee it.
considering my video decided to conk out, all things considered, I think this was a great first go. Introduction. Welcome officially. You've crossed the burning sands of the Founding Four Pond.
I feel like I bended that, but damn.
I'm just saying, like, now we've made it official.
Yes.
So we are gonna be back. We know that the series it won't be an even sweep. Tampa made sure of that tonight. So we'll see. Maybe we have another watch party in us. We'll have to see how it goes down after this Avs truther takes in the loss.
Avs truther. Jesus. The truth about the Avs that they sucked tonight. The entire game was ass. Like, let's be real. The entire game was
not great. It was not great. Not great. Not what you want to see.
No, absolutely not. But you know what? It's fine. There's 3 more games where that came from. So, should be good. At least the Avs now get the chance to win it on home ice. So
there you go. There you go. Game 4, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah. Want to give a shout to Too Many Men podcast, now part of the Lebitard shows and Lebitard and Friends, which is so dope. I mean, I think Sarah, Shayna, and Allison are a lot of fun. They obviously know their hockey. They gave Black Rosie Media a shout out on the pod last week, so I was grateful for that. But yeah, they're going to be having their live watch party tomorrow, or excuse me, on Wednesday for Game 4. So check that out. And yeah, we'll be back with Founding 4-ish coming real soon.
Founding 4-ish. I definitely said 3 games. I meant 2. I can't count.
I mean, math is hard unless it's 16 seconds left with a 4-goal lead and Colorado hasn't found the back of the net since the second period. Then the math is pretty easy. Listen, call it like I see it. All right, since my camera went out, we're definitely gonna.
That's why your camera went out.
We're gonna wrap this one up. Hermana, thank you so much for joining me tonight and for being a part of the Founding Four moving forward as part of Black Rosie Media. Black Rosie for the culture.
Yes. For the
Have
culture.
a good night, everyone. We'll catch you soon.